for anybody who's just joining us who may not be familiar with you, who the heck is Braden Michaels, and why are we talking to you tonight?
Question. Actually, I'm a married man. I have a toddler, or not a toddler, but he's almost 6 years old. He's a handful. He keeps me busy. I've been writing for probably most of my life. I've been writing since I probably even before I was like 10.
Oh wow!
So I've just, I would write a few lines on a Post-it note, and my mom would take it and put it on the fridge. But I don't think I realized that I was at that age that I wanted to be a writer. Probably around 15, 16, when I began to really read poetry. The first person that really grabbed my attention was Allen Ginsberg. So I read Howl at 16,
I know
and
that's
I thought,
one of
wow,
Annie's favorites.
like this is like write a book and but growing up, life for me was kind of a little difficult. My mom was always in and out of the hospital growing up. She passed away at a young age.
Oh, wow.
So I kind of used my writing as an outlet. But I got to the point where looking at it and reading it, I got tired of writing the same stuff over and over because it was an outlet. I got married in my 20s at a young age and didn't know anything about marriage. And I learned, we were together for about 10 years, and turned out she that she was an alcoholic. I thought it was.
Okay. Well, I'm going to pause. Yeah. Hold on, Brandon. Can you hear me okay? I put headphones on. Okay, I couldn't tell if you can hear me or not, because you just unpacked a whole lot of stuff. You got to give me a second here, because you said some incredible stuff here that I understand may have impacted your writing, but you also were sick of writing the same stuff. So I love hearing this history. And anybody that's just joining us, welcome. Tell your friends that we're talking with Braden Michaels right now. He's got a book coming out this month on the 25th, correct? Or is it the 23rd? I've seen conflicting reports. 25th or 25th. We're going to get into all of your works pretty soon. If you're just joining us, he started giving us some history. Now, you said that your mother used to put your writings
write it like on a Post-it note.
Under 10 years old. Do you remember any of those? Like any good snippets
Actually,
from young Braden? Okay.
One of the things that I wrote that stuck out was that you have to walk, you have to crawl before you can walk to feel your desire, but within you carry an invincible fire. And I wrote that probably
wow.
Yeah, I mean,
like as a child you wrote that?
But again, I didn't know what I was doing. It took me years to discover, I'm a writer. I just didn't know it as a child and through my teens.
And you learned that as a teenager? Was that a high school class? Was it just being a teenager and putting some poetry together? This is kind of
I didn't know that, number one, I was writing poetry. I had journals. I had tons of journals where I was writing stuff down and just writing random stuff that just came to mind. So as I got older, I kind of repressed that and didn't share that with too many people. So when I got married, as I was saying, I kind of hid that in my first marriage. I wrote, but I didn't really share it with too many people that this is what I want to do. So before my first marriage ended, I volunteered to go to therapy. I knew I needed it. Something about me didn't feel right. Something about my marriage didn't feel right. Lots of aspects just were wrong. I saw myself growing, and again, I was with an alcoholic where she didn't recognize there was a problem.
Right.
And
So that must have been very tough. So was a marriage that didn't go all the way through. So how long did that
I
take for?
was with her for altogether about 10 years. So I got divorced in my 30s, like roughly like 32, 33. I got remarried.
Okay.
Like a year, maybe 2 years later, and to a person that was the opposite of my first wife. Like, I made sure I found somebody that everything we did not revolve around a drink. And so
like a complete straight edge. So your current love of your life is a complete straight edge, and you've learned from your previous relationship. Is that what I'm hearing from you, Braden?
I told myself, I'm okay. I'm going to start doing things that I want to do. Because most of my first marriage, I did a lot of stuff for my spouse. Nothing was ever for me. I was married to someone that was very domineering and very controlling. So once I got out of that, now I'm in a marriage where I want to say I'm more dominating or controlling, but there's more balance and there's more of an open discussion about topics. So
interesting. So you share your work with her currently? Like, does she is she your first reader?
You say that. I shared my work with her very early on when we started dating. She actually encouraged me to go on WordPress and start an account, and that's how I started. So she encouraged me to do that.
Can I ask what year were you married? Because it looks like you started, like, now, I don't know if everybody who's just joining us, welcome. We are talking to Braden Michaels. Now, obviously, we're highlighting his new book, his 6th poetry book. That's actually, I'm kind of fascinated. It's actually a collection of all your previous works that we're going to talk about. But it started you started popping all these books out starting in April 2020. So when does this all, as far as we learned about your history with losing your mom, unfortunately, very young, having I don't want to say a tumultuous first marriage, but a first marriage where it taught you a lot about what you needed for yourself in your life, for you to be happy and for you to pursue your goals and ambitions. Because, oh my gosh, we got a lot to discuss as far as what you've done. And then, of course, having your current love, who has been, it sounds like a driving force for you, because, again, we got a lot of stuff to talk about with the first hour. So let me stop asking and setting you up. Talk. So when
I started
love
my
of your
blog,
life first come through your the wife current?
I just wrote regularly. I stayed with it. I got a good following doing it, and got to the point where I'm like, okay, I need to start making books. So I started to publish them myself, which was a bad idea. Meaning that I kind of did the work. I'd find a cover, put my name on it, publish them. Nobody ever read anything really. I think I had, and at this time, I met Tara. So I met her very early on.
Tara Caribou, we just had an interview with her.
And it occurred to me, I can't do this. So I decided to reinvent myself. I stripped my blog, took a lot of my content down, and that is my first book, The Raven's Poison.
Yes, and that was from April 25th of 2020. Storm of
no,
what you call
what
your
I did was
house,
that was the name of my blog.
Somebody else?
So I had an idea of what I wanted to do with it.
Name. Okay.
So I reached out to Tara. I said, I want you to do my first 5 books. You do the magic, I'll give you the manuscript. And I said, and she didn't have contracts at this time. She just started her publishing company. So, but she does all the magic. And I use that word because when she does a book, it looks like it's from a traditional publisher. And I always advertise that to anybody who's bought a book. They would even ask me, did you do that? Hell no, I can't do that. So,
well, I'm glad you brought that up because we just had a pre-recorded
I listened to that
interview with Miss Tara Caribou, who's also, I believe, in our audience. awesome, because she also spoke super highly of you, of course, along with a lot of people that she's worked with, and everybody that we've interviewed who has had books come out recently that also partner with her has had very similar, just pleasant experience working with Tara Caribou as far as the publishing experience and what you said, doing the magic. So you said The Raven's Poison, your first book, is a collection of your first, just kind of your blog poetry. Also under your description, it's really designated as part of like a human condition. So it's kind of like your setup of that book about just human condition poetry, or just the things you felt.
It's a blend of my marriage
that came out,
broken up in sections of people and patterns. People have that good and bad habits. So in a nutshell, it's a little bit of each section. Some sections are dark, some are light. So it's all the emotions that every person on the planet feels. So there's a lot of growth and a lot of healing, a lot of being introspective. It's some of it's very personal, but then, like I said, I got to the point in my life where, okay, I'm not writing personal stuff anymore. I need to set myself apart from other poetry across the world. How do I do that?
And that brings in a really good question. Now, you said that in previous conversations that you have a really unique writing process. And I want to hear about that. I think this is a great jumping point to hear about your specific writing
So my process in the beginning was writing from a personal place. So I thought to myself, how can I separate myself from another poet? Since there's a stigma, in my opinion, for a poet. Most people assume a person that writes that's a poet is broken. They've got a dark past and they're writing to heal. So my approach is to write it from like a storyteller's perspective. So I've walked through life kind of just absorbing people's lives, like people's patterns, and just trying to, rather than judge, just understand people. So I've taken the approach of understanding people and then putting that into a poem, basically, as if I'm creating a story, not necessarily a poem. I tend to use a lot of symbolism.
Like Braden, so it seems like your second book that's not I would say a collaboration or a consortium of poems, because you do have two other pieces that come in before this one, but this really describes kind of what I view of your Stella Walker's acquaintances, which is, I believe, your book 2. Is that kind of like the storyteller? Because I don't know if you haven't heard about this concept. It's basically, from what I've gathered, it's a bunch of collections of poetry that highlight a characterization of a story of this woman, Stella Walker.
Yeah, actually, I knew somebody.
Can you talk about that book?
From WordPress that was a widow, and we became very close friends, and she inspired the concept. Because once I learned a lot about her, I realized, okay, she's sharing a lot of great information. I even asked permission, like, can I take what you're going through? Because I don't want to exploit it and use it to the advantage. So I came up with characters, to your point, of people you come across that mold and shape your life, good and bad. So it starts out with kind of somewhat of a prologue, and then she runs into different characters, and you kind of see how the collection evolves, and she kind of finds herself in the end. She's not as broken anymore. She finds herself basically at the end of the book, and sees the beauty of what she had, what she had, but at the same time seeing the beauty of herself. So
that's incredible of a concept, and you get that through the whole. And now this book that you had, I have that. It's like 101 pages, so that's through the whole 101 journey. That's what we're going to gather through that second book, and that's your second creation. And again, that really speaks to you, that concept of your writing style, which you said it may be not necessarily from my personal place. It's a characterization of a lot of other real human experiences, whether it's real or potential, I like to call it exaggerated reality or exaggerated fictitious, not all real life is exciting, but I just want to say Poetry Junkie 85 shout out. They love you. Think you are a fantastic writer. So you're just really giving some great feedback for our audience tonight. So thank you. So then your third book, and then we'll talk about ones where you put, because I'm hoping that we go into more of your actual work tonight before we get into the second hour. But so your third book, again, kind of going with this concept here of more of a conceptualized writing style, is Unpaved Crossroads.
Right.
And this is July 2021. And this is based off of Robert Frost, The Road Not Taken, as far as like the concept. Can you talk about this whole thing? Again,
I thought about that.
Friends, if you're
I thought about that poem.
His 6 books coming out, and this is book 3.
At the time when I was doing my blog, I thought, you know what, I want some made up road names. So initially, I put a post on WordPress and I said, I want followers to give me a name of a road, and I'm going to put a story to it. But the really underlying message of the entire book is that your choices or lack of choices that you make are going to put you in a place. So those choices you make are your roads, basically. You live where you make your choices, basically. So again, each poem has a made up road about something, about love, about finding God, about being poor, about success. But again, if anybody bought the book, they can find themselves somewhere in that book. And I actually dedicated it to my son, because when he gets older, I want him to realize that no matter whatever choices you make, whether I like them or not, this is your path. And I'm going to respect it and love you no matter what.
That's great. Like, what a great concept for him to see. And again, your son is currently about 6 years old. So how old do you think your son needs to be before you think that they're going to find more collections of work?
He knows I'm a writer. He knows I'm a poet. So I've shown him my books. I think at any point where I'm even teaching him to rhyme a little bit, just so he get the feel of what that's like. And it won't be long before I sit down with them and teach them how to write a poem. Because I'm teaching him right now that as a boy, as you get older, it's okay to feel. It's okay to cry. It's okay to say I love you 1,000 times. Like, I don't want him to grow up to not know how to feel. That does not make you a man. So he's very touchy-feely, just like I am.
That's
and
huge.
I want him to.
What other lessons are you hope that your son's going to pick up through some of your work? Because that's a big one. Like that, I don't want to categorize it as toxic masculinity, but I find that kind of be sprinkled in as lessons that we've learned from that toxic masculinity, that it's okay for men and all of us to cry because it's a human emotion. So are there any other really interesting human lessons that your son will be able to take through some of your work? I think the biggest thing is starting something and complaining it.
I mean, it's a big undertaking to sit down and say, okay, I'm going to write a book. So my approach when I come up with a book, I have a theme, a general theme. So I want him to learn that when you start something, you want to try to finish it. There's probably a lot of different things he's going to learn with the whole concept of me writing and being an author. So I think your question, that answer is going to have a lot of different reasons and impact.
I guess what lessons have you learned already that you hope that are being stated? So you said other than crying, and then also, of course, being aware of some things. It seems like again, friends, if you're just joining us, we are talking to Braden Michaels, whose 6th book is coming out in April 25th, which is actually, I heard, it's kind of like the best hits of all of these books. We've talked about the first 3. We still have 2 more of your books to talk about. And I hope we are going to get actually into some of your, you reading some of your work. I just wanted to go through your collections first. And that here you had the next one again. So if you're just joining us and you missed the start, we started with the Ravens Pose in Poetry, which was in April. So again, your first book came out in April. Your next book's coming out in April. Actually, oh my gosh, dude, 4/25/2020. So 3 years later, your sixth book on the dot. Oh my gosh, I didn't even put that together. Second book was Stella Walker's Acquaintances, which was based off of somebody he really knew in real life who happened to be a widow. And if you missed his entire description of the emotional experience that this character and you as the reader are going to feel throughout, holy moly, get a copy right now. The third book was Unpaved Crossroads from July of 2021, which kind of was hinted by the theme of Robert Frost, The Road Not Taken, but every poem through there was teaching some sort of road. And now with the fourth book, December 20th, 2021, Growl from the Sun and Other Poems. And this seems to be more of a
because of COVID and all the things that were going on in the world.
Let's talk about this.
So my approach with this book is that I just bought a collection of poetry by Ginsberg. So I was reading a lot of him at this time.
Yeah, if you just joining us, Ginsberg was definitely of inspiration for our guest here.
So at the time, I'm like, okay, I want to write something that has a Ginsberg-esque feel to it. So I'm thinking of a title in my head. Okay, well, he wrote Howl. So I'm going to write Growl from the Sun. And Howl is broken up in parts. So I decided, okay, I'm going to write a poem broken up in parts. But my approach to this is going to be a little bit different. I'm not going to put a label on this. I'm not going to pick on Democrats. I'm not going to pick on Republicans. Why? Because first and foremost, strip the label. They're a human being. It's the human beings that are making these decisions for us. So I wrote it with the approach of strip the labels. Look at what's really happening in the world. Open your eyes and look at it from the perspective without a label. I think a lot of us struggle going through life without a label.
Well, that definitely was a time period that we needed to kind of reflect. And obviously, it's hard to say where we are as a part of that, but I wanted to know, have you gotten a response or any sort of feedback from this book specifically? Because being political, sometimes it's hard, sometimes it's like a hit or miss, sometimes it's you say one thing and it gets misconstrued or categorized and then you're cut off, or sometimes, again, people are allowed to have their own feelings in this world, and not everybody's willing to.
This is probably one of the few books that I wrote.
You said you did not
from my perspective. So, like, my wife loved it. She thinks it's probably the best thing that I've ever written.
Like that, like who
just my wife, and I think, and Tara really liked it too. That's wonderful because she gave it a lot of praise, but yeah,
that means something.
But
that means
outside of that.
Can I suggest something? I'm sorry. Can I suggest something? Maybe she loves it so much is because it was you. It was more you. You said this was your actual words and feelings as far as waking up, whatever you personally feel. But like, at least here is my perspective and opening up to that. Maybe that's why she was so into it, because it's from you. Yeah. I mean, to do some of this really amazing stuff here, because you in your biography, kind of who you are as a writer, you talk about utilizing investigative perception and also deconstructive literature. So like that fact that that's such a talent in itself, but also to give your true, this is me on the page. Maybe that's what
I agree with that.
For her, at least. Oh, okay. All right. Well, then next topic. No discussion needed then if we're not going to argue. But that's kind of, so you didn't get much of like at least hate or love response, but you felt like it was at least a prized passion piece to at least be able to put something of your own out there and get it done. It was one of your shorter pieces, so at least you got,
well, I did that on purpose.
What you had said,
and actually with this project, I used Tara's publishing name. I thought if I made it into a chapbook, I thought I would get more feedback and people would be interested, but again, the world was full of a million books and a million authors, so I didn't really get as much feedback as I thought I would.
But now that we're here talking to you tonight, it's an opportunity that we can go back. I mean, just because it's not 2021 anymore doesn't mean that we can't go back and go to this. Because again, if you're just joining us or you're just a new fan to this amazing writer, amazing poet out here that we have tonight, you can check out all of the works are available through your webpage, through your Instagram. You can get on Linktree and also Amazon. And of course, you know, Tara Caribou always knows how to hook up our authors and how to get them on that screen. So if you're just joining us, definitely check this out. Braden, this might be a great time to actually, there's one more book before the last book. So maybe I should do this first before I beg you to read some stuff. But so you had one more book that wasn't terribly long ago. This was published in October. It's For You, Love Always. And this is kind of like your thematic for love's delicate spirit. Do you want to talk about this collection your last?
The attempt was just to write a collection of poems of love. And I wrote about 15 poems, and I'm thinking, man, this is a lot harder than I thought. Because what I hate to do is to write poetry where another poem feels and sounds like another one. That's a big pet peeve of mine. I want all my books to have its own feel too. So,
and it does seem to feel like
every project
already
to have its own identity. So on this project, I struggled initially. And then I thought, you know what? I'm overthinking this here. All I got to do is think about the person who I'm married to. Then I made it more personable. And actually, I dedicated this book to my wife, actually, and gave this to her for our anniversary. So once I got past the 20-page mark, the rest of it was easy to write.
Wonderful. Wow.
It was wonderful.
Is it on October? What's the anniversary? Is it October 18th or?
That was a 9-year anniversary. So this year will actually be 10.
Wow.
Oh,
what's your wedding anniversary?
Yes.
Is that on October 18th?
The wedding anniversary is October 19th.
Oh, okay. Okay, so it just happened to come out the night before. That's beautiful. So October 19th, and last year was your 9th. So you're actually going to be hitting the 10 years coming up this October. So 10 years going on 100, though. It seems like she's such a support. Other than her supporting your work, what else does she do that just really gets your spirits going? Because I know that you dedicated a whole book to her, and you said after page 20, and it's a 99-page collection here, you just flowed right out of you. So what else about that lovely lady of yours?
So one of the first things that really struck out to me when we met is she works in the medical field. So she really cares about just people overall.
Oh, wow.
She's always willing to help, you know, friends, people, strangers. But in my marriage, to me, she's like the glue. You know, she just does so much. And I'm always amazed by what she does for me. The cooking, you know, the cleaning part we both kind of do, but she's always willing to, you know, come weekend is tell me what you want to eat. I'll make it. So I'm always just impressed, and I always show gratitude to be grateful for what she makes. So I'm just always impressed by her energy to do all the stuff that she does and work a job and take care of a child. So.
Braden, can I share a friend of mine, her brother recently got engaged, and your story about your wife just seems to resonate with me with the story. Do you mind if I share this real quick? I feel it feels like the same kind of romanticism, but like it's actually, I chuckle at it, but it's really deep and actually very sweet, and it really I think is an essence of what true love is. Anyways, her brother recently got engaged, and I hope they're okay with me sharing the story. Because what he wanted to do is she got him tickets to the Taylor Swift concert, which was a big deal because, you know, the whole situation with Ticketmaster. But this woman that he is now engaged to went out of her way, spent the money to get the tickets before they couldn't get them. And he wanted to propose to her there, but he could not wait. So I guess last week she comes home from work, and he goes, would you like to go grocery shopping with me? And she goes, of course, yeah. And he goes, good, because I want to go grocery shopping with you for the rest of my life. Will you marry me? So I laugh at that because if anybody were asking me if I want to go grocery shopping, I'd tell them to go fuck off because I hate grocery shopping. But again, it's like the little things and appreciating doing the most mundane tasks together. That's how you know that's that person for you. So that's why I want to thank you for letting me share that. That just really resonated, that whole connection. So I can see that your wife is just so wonderful for you. And of course, you have this beautiful family. So this comes to our last, while we're talking to you, is that Braden, you have a 6th book now coming up. A 6th book. Welcome if you're just joining us. We are talking to Braden Michaels, and he has a 6th poetry book. We went through the journey of all 5, and this is called Between the Verses and the Ink, Volume 1, which is a collection from all of your 5 books. So how is this book also going to have its own unique theme? I think it kind of reminds me of like a CD almost, because it's got all the best hits. Or can you talk about what your thoughts were? Why this book? Why now? And
well,
why
the first thing I thought, if someone were to buy this today, when it comes out, someone's going to get the variety. Someone's going to get the feel of each book. Because again, none of the books are closely related. So someone's going to really feel how different each book is. So if someone's reading it and you go to each section and you're reading, again, most people are going to find themselves in this book somewhere. Emotionally, experiences, just all the above. So my goal is every 5.
Yes, because you have that whole human condition. I'm sorry, because you have the whole human condition. We also have the experience of a character who had been newly widowed and her whole life experience and emotional journey. We also have everybody has their own roads not taken. We also have a political and a love collection. So we are going to get a whole bunch of different things all in this one jam-packed situation. So continue on. What else?
Well, that's probably the biggest thing is that someone's going to get a good variety. So if they're really liking one section better, then they can just go out and get that book. But I mean, that's what someone's really going to get. They're going to get the full variety of flavors of how I write. So again, since my approach, I think it.
Oh gosh, I like
unique.
How you said
Someone's
that.
going to see how different and unique it is.
So you talked about how your style is different as far as it's not necessarily this is me trying to heal from my own daily grinding experience. This is I want to use the terminology that I believe that is from you. It was a deconstructive literature that also is dwelling on the concept of the investigative perception and the penetrating rationale of like what's going on with different types of experiences throughout the world. We're going to get that. We're going to get that essence through that book. But as far as like time to task, so we're talking about 6 books. Books. I just said books. I just made up a word. I'm so sorry, everybody. But we're also only talking about only about like 2.5 years. We've put all this stuff out. So let's talk about how long does it take for you to write a piece or let alone a collection of pieces? Well, first of all,
amazingly, I do 80% of my writing from my phone. 20% of it is done on the computer.
Really?
Because since I'm a family man, I don't have plenty of time to sit in front of a computer. So what I do is I test myself. I come up with a theme in my head and say, okay, I want roughly 100, maybe 120-page book. So I have a little app on my phone and I start writing. So by the end of the day.
What's the name of the app?
Well, I use Google Keeps is what I use. So I pen it,
okay.
Start writing, pen another one, and then I color code them. Mm-hmm. So that I know what poems belong to each project. So once I color code them, once I get to about 10, 15, I ask myself, okay, can I come up with 100 more just like this? So before I go buy a cover, test myself to see if I can make this into a full book, a full project. And I post them on Instagram or WordPress to get some feedback. That feedback gives me some direction. Okay, I can really make this into a book. I've told this to Tara numerous times. My brain doesn't shut off. I come up with ideas at any time of the day. I wake up with, in the morning, at night, with phrases in my head and say, that's a poem, like that's a title. Because one thing that I commonly do is that I try to make my titles to be unique. When someone's going through the feed, I want my titles to stand out. When you come up with something very generic, it doesn't stand out. I come up with titles, something like coughing up a smirk. Like, that's so unusual. So to me, the more unusual I make them, the more appealing, or the more that poem will stand out. So I put a lot of psychology, because to me, a lot of writing is just psychology. So I just connect the dots, and I just put a lot of thought into it before I say, okay, now I'm going to take on a project. So to answer your question, it roughly takes me probably 3 to 4 months to probably write a book, and then to compile it and send it to Tara and say, do your magic.
Do your magic. And talk about that do your magic part. What does that mean? She just comes up with everything. Because again, she's incredible. If you have, I know you said you listened to it, but if anybody out there did not get a chance to listen to part 2, she really talks about the importance of publishers. If you're not shopping around, if you're not careful, they might not actually know what the actual format that's required by the Library of Congress. And that's important. Like, that small stuff is super important. As much as we enjoy that, poetry has no rules, some of these things actually we have to follow as far as making sure we follow those kinds of things. So is that what you refer to when you talk about doing the magic?
One reason I chose her in the beginning, because I bought her first book, and I thought, wow, like, this is how a book should look. And so again, I approached her. I'm like, okay, I want you to do my first 5 books. So her magic is reading it, glancing through it, and saying, okay, I want to make it look like this, because she does that based on the feel of the project. So the magic is how she formats it, or the art she's going to put inside there, or how she's going to separate the sections. That's her magic. For the most part, I have a site where I get my covers from. So
okay.
Do
you mind sharing that?
I get my covers from bookcoverzone.com.
bookcoverzone.com, because I like any resources for people out there, because a few of our guests have been people who have either utilized other people in the community to do covers for them, and then some people also are people who are promoting their own work. One of our interviews, Cece, mentioned that she does covers for books, but can you say that resource again, though, for people out there that are interested in potentially looking?
Correct.
bookcoverzone.com.
And it's
And
well,
why do you like that one? It's just easy to use.
So a poetry cover generally looks a little bit different, has a different feel than, say, a crime story. So they also have a section called surreal, a surreal section. That's very applicable to poetry too. So I try to pick covers that I think would be a great fit for a project. So sometimes I'll even go on there and ask myself, okay, what can I do with that cover? Like, I love this cover. What can I do with that? So even though I have this book coming out, I'm already working on the next project. So I already have covers for the next 2 projects.
Well, Brayden, it sounds like you're working on multiple projects constantly, because your brain seems to always be hitting all of these different concepts continuously throughout the day. So like, whether you're waking up and your mind's on this wavelength, and then you're at lunch and a different wavelength comes up, you use your phone. Like, I find that super fascinating. Awesome. Like, I find it so fascinating that you're able to write mainly on your phone. I have to use my phone a lot, which I actually I hate it so much. But it's just when you're a crutch, you're in a crutch. You got to get thoughts down when you can.
Yeah.
But you said you've really been able to organize that. And some ways that you've talked about organizing is using color coordination and just having a really easy app with the Google Notes and stuff like that. So what is coming up with you next? So like we have the 6th book coming out that people can get as far as the greatest hits, the volume 1. I mean, that's not what it's called. It's called Between the Verses and the Ink volume 1, but it's really just a hitting of the variety. I believe we refer to as the flavor that Braden Michaels will bring to the table. What's for you next after this? Obviously, you have a couple already projects that you're working on up here. Anything you can share with us as far as what's the next kind of
the
theme?
next theme, I use my insights and data on Instagram. I've been using it more and realizing the majority of my audience is women, obviously. So,
okay, women read more.
It occurred to me that I need to make my books a little bit more female oriented. So the next project are, again, I have 2 covers for them. So the next project is going to be really more about healing and finding yourself and understanding your self-worth and a little bit of pain. So it's going to be a blend of,
you know what, that kind of fits really well after the political book, even though there's a love book in between and a greatest hit book in between, but like maybe that's a healing piece through that, perhaps.
The interesting concept of this project, and I have a few poems actually on my Instagram account, is each poem's going to start out as once upon a blank and fill in. So my title, and I haven't really come up with the title yet, it's going to have that phrase in there somewhere. Because my cover is actually just a picture of a flower, but I haven't
once
figured
upon
that
a
out yet.
But it's the once upon is how once upon.
Yeah, that's how it starts. So each poem is kind of
collection,
like a fairy tale like poem. It's telling some kind of story, whether it's dark, light, finding yourself, healing, all the emotions that I think a woman goes through.
So it will be feminine focused because of what you said. Not only your interest in the category, the content, but also based on analytics. You know who your readers are will also connect that more. Is that what you're saying? That's why.
So the project beyond that, I bought a cover that's got a picture, another flower. So my goal there is to have every poem have a type of flower in the title. A marigold, a rose. Ooh. So every flower is going to have, or every poem is going to have a type of flower in the title.
A rhododendron and a philodendron.
So again, I come up with a theme for a project and I just roll with it.
Absolutely. I think we've kept our audience on edge long enough. We need to hear some poetry from you. Do you have anything?
Yeah, I have The Raven's Poison in front of me. And I even chose a poem because there's a story behind it here.
Ooh, okay. Yeah, sorry everybody for making you wait so long, but the conversation just had to happen. We got to get the background before we get the power piece.
This is from The Raven's Poison. This is called Under a Bloodshot Moon. Between the blackouts and the vertigo, slurred discussions evaporate in the smog. Excuses and cursed words creep in. Empty words reside at the bottom. Even the bloodshot moon cries. Between the collision and the stars, the sound of the gin on the rocks washes away. Sarcasm and coughed up memories. Acceptance of losses linger in the cold. Even the bloodshot moon cries. Between the anger and the doubt, brick walls rise inside my head, drowning in the misery and sadness, reveling in the toxic moment. Even the bloodshot moon cries. Between the strangers and ignorance, conversations vibrate and tremble. Loneliness staggers among the silence. Bottled up screams whisper. even the bloodshot moon cries.
Wow. I just need a second to kind of collect myself there. And this is in your first book? Oh, wow. Is this going to make it into the collection that's coming out on the 25th? Is this our first power that we're
I don't think it's the first one, but
or is it
somewhere? But it's definitely in there.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. You said, can you echo again the origin?
Well, again, I was married to an alcoholic, so the bloodshot moon is representing that the person I was married to. That's all they know. All they know is that they think that everything that they do, there needs to be alcohol included. But if that's all you know, I can't really fault her for that. If she grew up from that environment, because the more I thought about later on is, I even talked to her parents about this. You know, I was bold. I spoke to her dad. I'm like, but you guys drink just as much as she does. And so when you lecture her about drinking, well, it doesn't really matter because she's learned she learned this from you. Like, this is her environment. So to me, the poem represents, it's kind of hard to change when the people around you are just like you.
Mm-hmm.
You can't really change that. You'd have to change your entire environment. And that's not really possible. So the sad part about this, after I got divorced, within a year, she killed herself. She left her daughter behind. So, I mean, her daughter at the time was only like 10 or 11.
That's tough. Oh, wow. That's a very tough time to lose. Any time is very tough. I mean, to lose a parent, especially your mother, any time, any age, but to be that young and unfortunately to have lost her to suicide. But obviously it was probably, the suicide was probably a result of the alcoholism and just unable to overcome that. Unfortunately, alcohol and drug addiction is very difficult to, one, if you are suffering with and struggling with that, two, to be a loved one of somebody like that, because sometimes it's very difficult to remove yourself from the situation, but that is an addiction is very difficult to pull that apart because we're human, but at the same time, that person is not in control. It is not personal. It is a problem that they need help. And unfortunately, when people are not able to receive help or not ready to take help, for you as the healthy person in the relationship, at times it is the choice that you have to leave. And you had to make that choice.
Decision. I mean, even when I found out that she killed herself, like
I could imagine.
A part of me felt responsible. Like, you know what would happen if I was there. Like, would she have tried to do that? That took a couple of years for it to digest that I'm not responsible for that. Like,
oh wow, so a couple of years to digest that. No, you're absolutely not. Again, like that's unfortunately the suicide. I cannot talk as an expert in any regards to that, but saying that to me is a result of the alcoholism. And again, that's something that she is not in control of, and you know that because of how you even described it in that beautiful piece that you just shared with the bloodshot moon. So you said that it took years to digest. Can you speak on that a little bit at all?
I think
because that's important. Because again, a lot of people are dealing with things similar to that, feeling guilty for things that they have no control over. But it's human to take that. I mean,
somewhere along the lines in my first marriage, I got brave enough somewhere along the lines to start using my voice and speak up about things that I didn't like. And I didn't mention this, but I grew up with a dad where my dad was an alcoholic. And I didn't want her daughter to be exposed to that. And her and I had numerous conversations about this, but it got to a point where it didn't matter. Like she would still drink around her daughter and be drunk. And what I preached to her was, you don't know what that little girl is thinking. She's seeing you act completely different. When I was a little boy and I saw my dad act like that, that terrified me. what you're doing is that you're putting fear into your daughter because she doesn't know you. This is not the person.
And unfortunately, she wasn't receptive.
That never registered. So it took, even after my divorce, it took years. It took a while for that to digest that it wasn't my fault. But I'm glad I got to the point where I had to speak up, because who knows if I'd stay there, what that marriage would be like today.
So can I almost ask this question or make this suggestion to you, that it actually makes a lot of sense that this future project, the next project after the one that our people out there and us can
let me turn the camera on.
You're welcome. That's right. We have Elijah Abraham. He's got a question for you. I know. Welcome. Thank you for joining us, Braden. But that the healing is actually going to be also maybe a little bit also cathartic for you. Maybe even though everybody will be able to find a chance to find their own healing, but maybe that's also something that will be showcasing a lot of yourself. Oh,
yeah,
well, I'm looking forward to seeing
there is
that.
Little nuances of me in my poems, even ones that aren't directly about me, but my emotions are somewhat there in some way. Because again, it doesn't matter what gender it is, doesn't matter who you are. We all go through the same stuff and experience generally the same stuff. So my presence, whether it's about me or not, I'm there. I'm in there somewhere.
Absolutely. I mean, you are the one orchestrating the content. Before we have our extra new friend join us and talk to us as well, do you have another piece to share? And then we can talk about your piece. And then I know our friend Elijah Abraham has a question for you. But we'll hear another piece from us, because I know we're going to be getting into more of a open mic format pretty soon. But we got to be
I'm going to read the first poem from this book here, from The Raven's Poison. It's called The Ballerina in the Snow Globe. She dances like a ballerina in a snow globe. Dandelions are adding lyrics to the sound of Mozart. The splashes of watercolors were hanging above her elegance. She slides for forgiveness and sways for sobriety. The tinsel around her fiery spirit is no longer sparkling. She is twirling and spinning for a numb audience. The atmosphere is toxic. The ambiance in the snow globe is desolate. At the end of the ballet, only one rose was thrown in front of her feet. God threw it with all of his might. Her tears fell to the floor like a tidal wave. She only needed to dance for herself.
Wow, she only needed to dance for herself. I also heard another kind of echoing of that familiar muse of yours throughout this. Is that correct? Elijah Abraham, I hate to put you on the spot, but what do you feel after hearing something like that? Pretty passionate. Like you said, he writes in a different style as far as the characterization of that story broken down into like this incredible poetic format. But what do you got for me? I know you always have a good take on
I'm enjoying it. That one poem is pretty interesting, because to me, it sounds like you're writing from that the feeling from the ballerina, the way how she only got that one rose thrown to her, and she learned she had to dance for herself. And being a dancer and stuff, you learn head on. You make the show. It's not about anybody else. You have to do your part, and that's the key thing is. And how do you come up with the concept? Do you like just basically embodies the idea of somebody else when you come up with that, or does it just comes to you as in you have like a vision and then you just wrote what you feel? That's what I'm kind of curious about.
Yeah, it's more of just a concept. I just take the concept. Okay, I'm going to write about somebody that's broken, that's going to find herself. And I start with that vision, and realize, okay, today I'm going to use a ballerina. So I'm going to find a way to incorporate the imagery that I want, that she's dancing, and then realizing, to your point, what you just explained, that really she's dancing for her. She doesn't need to impress the world. She doesn't need to dance for millions of people. As long as she enjoys what she's doing, that's all that really matters at the end of the day. So it's a lot of my poetry is very, very concept oriented. It's just taking an idea and just adding imagery to it.
Okay. So you don't like to meet a ballerina or meet the people and then you like get a feel for them and then you just incorporate what you learned from them into your writing.
Right.
You just come up with it yourself.
Right. Exactly.
Wow. So how'd you get the name Braden? That spelling of your name, that's pretty interesting. Your parents gave you that name.
Yeah.
Because it's unique.
Actually, it's a pseudonym, actually.
She said that.
So,
No
that is my son's first name.
Sorry, this was a question we talked behind the scenes about, and I said, it's probably some sort of like Irish, Scottish origin.
Yeah,
but,
so
hey,
that,
you never know.
that is
You
my
remember
son's first
name?
And Michael is my middle name in real life. So I just...
Now, Braden is your son's name, you said? So where did you come up with the spelling for your son's name then?
It's the Gaelic version of it, of Braden.
I did it again.
I'm Irish, so that's how I came up with that.
Right. Sorry, Braden, I don't mean to like scream in your ear, but in our conversation I said your heritage or made up name, and I was right on both. Sorry, I just had to be silly about it. But we got to hear, before we wrap up kind of like the first hour together, where we want to hear one more. I definitely want you to open mic night tonight, Braden, with another piece. We'll start the open mic with you performing something else from you. But before we do that opening ceremony, so to speak, before we conclude the interviewing, I just want to wrap up that part, but we're not really done. We'll always keep talking. I'm not kicking anybody out with. You have a question after you talk, or if anybody else joins us, does a piece and wants to ask Braden or a question or a comment, please do. But there was something else that I wanted to ask, or at least bring up, is that you were, not only has Tara Caribou been an incredible force for you as far as making your own books, it looks like Tara Caribou has also been one of your driving forces as far as joining in a compilation of poetry books. Because it looks like you're in three compilations. You're in no particular order, except if you give me 30 seconds, I can put them in particular order. I just did. I believe the Poet Symphony, Bob versus Melodies and Lyrical Poems is volume 1. Is the first one. Then we have Static Dreams volume 1, a dark anthology in June of that year. And then Creations in the Cosmos, a poetic anthology inspired by nature of March of 2021. Can you talk about those your experiences with those three anthologies at all? As far as like, how did you get involved with all three of these before we move over to the open mic? I definitely want to hear about your experience in an anthology. And Elijah, Avery, have you got any other comments with that?
So Tara really just asked
because you always have
would want to be part of those. The Static Dreams is actually, I wrote a short story. I don't know if I'm really a great storyteller as far as writing a short story. I see myself more as a poet, but at some point I may later on try to write a short story, or multiple of them and make a book of it. But the experiences, again, she approached me, and since her and I work really well together, and everything's just very comfortable. I mean, anytime that she would ask me to do something, I was always, for the most part, I was always willing to participate. Because again, all of her projects are great. How can I say no to her? Like, that's very difficult to do.
So if Tara Caribou asks you to do something, you say, you better do it, because it's an incredible experience. So if Tara Caribou ever asks you to do something, you got to do it. That's what I'm hearing from you. Is that true?
Yeah.
Awesome. Somewhat. Oh my gosh, that's awesome. So that's wonderful. So all three of those experiences came up with her asking you, and you're like, yes, I'm going to do it. Where it looks like 2 were poetry, 1 was a short story. Now, can you talk about that short story, since that anthology seems to be very deep and just dark. Static Dreams Volume 1, a dark anthology from Twisted Minds. So that's a short story. Can you talk about the subject matter of that?
So my story encompasses a couple, basically, and I'm a big fan of horror, so my story is very twisty.
Okay.
So I'm gonna leave it at that.
Ooh,
you know, if someone's interested to read it, but
okay. Well, I'm interested, so I'm definitely going to be looking into that anthology.
Right.
It's not just you that have some twisted minds, but it's a collaboration of a couple. So if yours is a little too dark and disturbing, don't worry. There's a little bit of a different type of grotesque in the next couple of pages after. But I think, Braden, I'm not worried about your level of content. I think it's going to be incredible. I like something deep and intricate and dark and twisted. What about you, Elijah?
Yes, that's why I really like Alanis Morissette, her music type in, and Evanescence. Oh, so good. It gives you something.
Yeah. I do not necessarily enjoy watching horror movies, but I do like, they're too young for me, but they're a band called Ice Nine Kills, and they do music based on horror movies and horror stories. Braden, if you like horror movies, you might want to check them out. Again, they're a little younger than me, but their music is based on horror movies and horror stories. Like there's a song based on Jekyll and Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. So you might be interested in some of that. That's kind of cool. They also do a great performance live. They dress up. They literally kill people on stage. Well, not literally kill people. They literally pretend to kill people on stage. It's quite a show. I've actually seen them live. Again, I'm too old for that, but I still do it. But since we're about to move into hour 2 with our open mic, Braden, will you be so kind to open up our open mic with one more, or we'll continue to hear from you, but another piece of yours, and we'll start the open mic. And anybody who's joining us who wants to start the open mic and join us, I know Andy sent me some DM pieces, but if you want to request to join us, we can get up to 4 people into the square. So please don't be hesitating. Start hitting the request button because we are starting our open mic. Our open mic is starting now, and Braden's going to open it with a amazing piece. Braden, how will you be opening it?
Open it with a poem from my first book, but this poem is going to be about lust.
Okay, we're going to start it off.
So it's called Sugar Fascination. I've undressed your kindness and taste the sweet tea. I've undressed your words and swallow your charm. I've undressed your candor and stepped into your confidence. I've undressed your intellect and fell in love with your wit. I've undressed your beliefs and sleep with your poetry. I've undressed your receptiveness and danced with your fire. I've undressed your sharpness and licked your bitterness. I've undressed your magnetism and latched onto your spell. I've undressed your enchanted eyes and gripped your mysterious soul. I've undressed your broken star and see a magnificent galaxy.
Woo! Let's start.
Sounds like a reveal.
Can you? Can you tell us about that a little bit more? Or, like, where did the concept of that come from? Obviously,
for the most part, some of my poetry, I create a pattern. So I started out with I've undressed.
Mm-hmm.
And then instead of being all, I guess, too forward, I make it very subtle of just incorporating just personalities and things that would be appealing to someone's mind. Because to me, and probably the most, sex is beyond just physical. Women are attracted to your mind and how you think and how you behave and how you interact with others. So it's beyond just touch. So the reason this is in the category of lust is that someone can just make it look like and sound like, you know, I want you, but maybe they don't really want you for the right reasons. Someone can act like they want you for your mind, but really play you and get you into bed, and when they're done, just treat you just like, you know, a normal person and just move right along. So that's how I approach that piece, because I think that happens to millions of people.
Well, I would say so. I mean, it's, again, the human experience is a human experience, and we all have human experiences. But here's what I want to say too: is I wanted to kind of say something that you said as a caveat to what you just said, because you had posted something on about tenderness not too long ago. Tenderness isn't just felt with the fingertips, it's felt in the heart. And I think that kind of echoes about what you were saying. Absolutely. Well, so far I am waiting for somebody to request to join. Elijah, Abraham, do you have anything that you wanted to showcase or share before
well, I'm still choked up on that one. I was like, wow. I expected it to be a little bit more like, woo, but he did very clean. He stayed away from the going in too deep.
Right.
Of the topic.
And that's the goal. I don't want to do that.
I
don't want it to be like in your face.
Mm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And that is a skill. There was a poem that I wrote about a zipper that, again, it had very sexual innuendo, but it definitely was also about more revealing. But again, I just thought, again, it's very delicate to write lusty without being, and I got to use the right word, because there's nothing wrong with smut, but lusty without smutty, it's to be, because again, you want to be refined with it. It's about trying to Shakespeareanize it, the beast with two backs, kind of see if you can sneak it in where we're reading about in high school. The kids have no idea how horrible what they're reading.
You remember like that chin goes up and chin goes down, and they're like, what? Have you heard that one?
Say that part again.
Oh, the one that you hear like was like they talk about chin toes up and chin toes down, and they're like, what? It's one of those unfortunate little you when you think about it, it makes sense, but when you first get it, it's like, huh?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, it's like anytime you watch things that are for children as an adult, you go, oh, they were not just for kids. So funny that I didn't see that in the first place. It's funny how the mind is. Again, welcome everybody. Now we're here without being cross, without being raunchy, yeah. Lustful without raunch. Like, again, I find it to be a skill, a very interesting skill. So again, we have entered into hour 2. We've opened it officially with Braden. He opened it up with that amazing, light-hearted but very hot, lusty piece about tenderness also. Anybody, let us know if you want to hit up the mic. We do have some DM pieces we're going to be reading. But Elijah, Abram, do you have anything to share with us before?
Oh yeah, I want to hear you do that zipper one that you wrote. I'm so curious about that. You got me.
Really? Okay. All right. I think I did this on the first. Actually, to be fair, I kind of blindsided a fellow poet with the piece, and they didn't want to read it at first because they didn't understand the whole thing. And then after I read it and explained it, it was like, oh no, I get it now. But heck yeah, I'll read the zipper piece. Hey. Also, while the zipper piece is being done, I got to bring this friend in.
Andy.
You all know him. And then Braden, we definitely want to. Andy's coming in as soon as I can get him in. I'm getting you in there.
What's up, guys?
That piece to start.
There you are.
Hey, you made it. You poor thing. Andy's been trapped at this horrible work situation. But Andy, Braden had a fantastic
so mad I missed that.
for the first hour. I know. But it's okay. Andy, do you have anything that you want to talk to Braden about? I did say Braden. I think I said.
No, it's fine. I'm doing okay. I'm just a little bit overwhelmed, but I'm okay. I'm glad I made it. Welcome everybody to, I guess, second hour. Yeah,
we're just getting the open mic started. So Andy, we actually waited for you to really get that started because I know that you had some pieces that were sent to you directly, and we want to make sure you got a chance to get that happening for you, and we will. I did get that piece for our friend when we get a chance to go through the open mic again. But Andy, continue. How you doing?
I'm okay. Just overwhelmed. Just glad I made it here. I am extremely exhausted, but I'm good.
Rally on two.
That stage is so sweet. Andy, oh my goodness, whoever did it for you, they did a good
Oh,
job.
I did this myself. I do everything myself. I don't go to a barber anymore. Yeah.
Okay, you got that line. Very, very good.
Tell Andy, how was your experience the first hour? Did we do it?
I literally just got on, to be honest with you. So I have no idea what's going on. Like I was telling you privately.
I'm just saying, Braden, how did we do?
It looks like you did great.
Braden, did you have a good time the first hour?
Wait, you're talking to me or Braden?
Braden, I can't.
Oh, I enjoyed it actually. Absolutely.
Did you have a good time the first hour? Tell Andy how it was.
Again, I listened to Tara's interviews or conversations you guys had, but it was nice, I guess, in this situation for it to be one-on-one. But I mean, again, if you all three were there, I'm sure that it would still be fun. But it was just a little more unique because, again, I heard Tara's, and there was got questions coming from all different directions, so it was interesting just to have it one-on-one.
Yeah.
But I definitely enjoyed it.
Well, we'll have to ask our audience what they enjoyed.
Yeah. I guess my question to you, I guess, before we bring the open mic.
Yeah, let's keep going.
Because I don't know if this question was asked or not. Again, I just joining now because again I had to deal with crap at work.
Andy, we love you.
So I remember in earlier conversations we had before, when we were setting everything up, I remember you talked about, how you had transitioned to different publications, stuff like that. What made you decide, okay, like I'm gonna go with this, I'm gonna go with tarot, for example? Like how did that come about? I don't know if that was already answered or not, or if that question was asked. And for those who are jumping in, welcome. This is officially an open mic, for sure.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay.
Andy, we got it.
But anyway, yeah. So I don't know if that question was asked or not, but
No, that's actually a good question because we did talk a little bit briefly about how Tara had been very helpful.
Well,
Raw Earth.
I met her in WordPress, so her and I have been really good friends for years, probably a good 6-7 years. So when she published her book, her first book, and I bought that, I thought, wow, and I was saying this earlier, this is how a book should look. So I approached her and I said, okay, I want to publish 5 books. So I want you to do them, but I want them to have my blog name on there. So I didn't. So my books don't have Raw Earth Inc. Only one book does, and that is The Growl from the Sun. But all of the rest of them have the Storm of Ink. So when I read her book,
that's right, he did
just aesthetically and how it was formatted, I thought, okay, I want her to do these because I'm not comfortable in anybody else to do what she can do. Again, to me, she makes magic. So when I give her a manuscript, anybody who buys any of my books, someone's going to see how great they look inside.
Okay.
And she mentioned too that for new writers out there, or if you're still, or if you've published books before with other people, she recommends the first thing you do is just research different publications. And she's very honest. And she said that in her interview, if you didn't get a chance, that she's more than willing to answer questions, and she's going to give you the real freaking deal. She's not going to bullshit you, because that's what it's important, to not be bullshit, to know what's really going on. And that was your experience too, is what I'm
And she'll do that. She's very honest about everything, really.
That's awesome. That is awesome. Wow. And that's what. So basically, So basically, this is like a remastered. Basically, right? Pretty much is what this is. So pretty much now that you're transitioning over to Raw Earth Inc., basically your older books, so it's like a remastered version of it under the new umbrella, under the new.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I can't think shit, but you know what I mean. Pretty much, it's like when they remaster a new CD or whatever. So it's pretty much what that is, right? It's like it's under the new publication, like how music. Okay, it's remastered under a different record label now. So that's pretty much what that is, right?
So going forward, basically, I'm going to use her. Like I wanted to use a bigger publisher at some point, but when I started doing research, a lot of, and she pointed this out in her interview, they want you to be in a box. So they want an author her to be a cookie cutter. Well, that's not me. I screwed that box out a long time ago. So again, I want every book I make to have a different feel and a different theme. So I know for probably the rest of my life, I'm just going to use her because I'm comfortable with her, and she does awesome work. I couldn't ask for a better publisher.
And Andy, everybody that we spoke to, like Greg and also Brandon, they said the same thing, that they had a really amazing experiences with her. And definitely when we went through the books, Andy, we went through all 5 of them. And this book that they can get on April 25th, which is done on purpose because his first book came out on the same day 3 years earlier, that they're going to get kind of like a greatest hits album version of the different aspects of Braden Michaels. And that's how we opened up again our open mic. And again, I cannot echo the fact that it's so important that we are sharing what amazing community members are out there and how they're supporting each other, and because again, your work needs to be showcased. And that's we're so grateful that you're able to be here tonight with us, and that we've been able to connect with such a great network of poets. So as we continue on, Elijah Abrahams requested your Sunday Night Confession by me, Angela Murray, and then anybody else who's up next on the mic, just say something in the chat, and we'll move our friend Elijah Abraham out and put you in. So this was your Sunday Night Confession. So again, Braden opened up with a nice little soft but hard lust piece about kind of a light lust there. And this one, again, trying to toe the line where there is definitely some sexual innuendo, but also it's a little bit more, hopefully, that comes through. It's called Sunday Night Confession. I can't help myself from imagining what it would be like to take that slow, breathy, deep inhale, as you'll have to understand, since I'm still awake, in need of expressing this, by no means needed, but straight given to God or to your very best friend confession of how I cannot help myself from contemplating how it would be if I were to take my right hand with fingers clenched, secured, confident, with digits pinched, with a firm grip intensity, however happy, our coy smiles and eyes pupil wide, filling up this space with obnoxious laughter, when what remains in this holding tight, a hard-held memory, yet somewhat lighthearted and friendly and taut, pulling us in closely and closer, now knowing even more, waiting, wondering what nonsense would possibly happen. I can't help myself from hallucinating various random, scintillating scenarios, from starting at the top of your long sleeve hooded poly cotton blend, playfully pulling down this cold metal zipper, needing to fully exhale while I, lackadaisical and dragging down of what's now obvious, as I cannot stop thinking about that prominent zipper, still wondering what else from you will spill out and what else would be entirely exposed, as it unzips, coming all the way down by our completely innocent, nevertheless authentic and explosive action.
Wow.
Yeah, that's really good.
Definitely tripped up too many, but yeah, a zipper on like a little, polyester hooded thing, just pulling it down. But what else is going to come out from underneath?
I think that's when, I look at that as like, let's say, when you're with somebody you love, let's say, I'll put it in this perspective, right? Especially if, let's say, you're the type of person, like, you waited until marriage and then you finally consummate marriage and all that stuff. I look at that, okay, look, I'm trusting you with this part of me that I've never shown anyone else before. This is a vulnerability part of me that's like, the minute I open the zipper, you're going to see things, you're going to learn things, and we're going to have energy about each other that we've never experienced before. This is going to be a different thing. I hope you're ready, and I hope you understand that, hey, listen, you're gonna see everything about me that no one else has ever seen, because now we're being together, we're married together. Because they say marriage, with the whole paper thing, but I look at it as, at the end of the day, once you have sex with someone, especially if it's like someone you love, you're technically married in spirit, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
And it's like a bond that only you and your significant other will only understand. I think what makes it hurt more is, like, let's say things don't work and y'all break up or whatever, then that's what hurts more, because especially if it's your first, and let's say that doesn't work out, and you did that bonding intimacy, because intimacy comes in different shapes and forms, and it's just like when nothing like that happens, and then you've already experienced that togetherness, that bond is like to try. It sucks because then it's like the next person you meet and get intimate with, they don't get the full experience because now there's some barriers, or there's some either there's some bondage that they're holding on to, or there's some walls that get built that now the next person that's experiencing that, they only get to see certain things that you show. Like it's like you're control of what you're showing and what you don't show, kind of thing. And that's the way that speaks to me in that aspect, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Wow, thanks,
I like to dissect stuff. I'm sorry.
Really
I'm looking at the guy. I like dissecting things.
I'm the same way, so I totally get it, Andy.
Elijah, before I kick you out, because I got to get some more friends in, did you have any?
Oh no, I'm loving it. Go ahead and kick me out. Let's see the next person.
Well,
it was great. It was great.
Was it everything you asked for, I hope? All right, I just popped my ear for that. All right, bye.
Yes, next Friday. Yes,
right.
Next Friday we will be interviewing Elijah.
Yes. Oh my gosh, that's true. We will be talking with our friend a little more exclusively next Friday, and also doing another open mic. Anybody wanting to come in the mic, please. I need you to request. Andy, did you want to read a piece that was sent to you? I know that you had pieces that you wanted to read, and while you do that, I'm going to try.
Actually, I was going to read one of my pieces first, just to start it off, because
yes, please.
I wrote this 2 days after they did the shutdown. So the title of this piece is called Bolero of Fire. So the title itself, I got that from the video game Legends of Zelda: Ocarina of Time, because there's a song that he plays called Bolero of Fire, and it was just an interesting title. It's something about the title. So I was just watching walkthroughs. I have this thing where I like to look at walkthroughs and stuff, and it's just like, I don't know why I look at them, but I was looking at walkthroughs of the game, because, you know, sometimes there's always something you miss, like a strategy guide. Back in the day, there was strategy guys and stuff. So anyway, I looked at the title, and the title really caught my attention type thing. So it's like, I looked at the title, I saw, watching the walkthrough, and I just wrote this piece, came out of that. So wow, I haven't read it in a while. So here we go. So it's called Bolero of Fire. Okay. Mic check. Anyone here? Anyone gonna listen to me? I dream these dreams. This nightmare is part of the dream I used to dream. This is the way we washed our hands. This no longer my issue, my problem not. You just couldn't accept it, couldn't you? You're going to the bar to drink, aren't you? They call it wine and spirits for a reason. I recall we spoke about this situation. We've touched on this topic. The devil isn't a liar. The devil is the liar playing his Bolero of Fire. The devil has no mother. The fight song, the Chango dance. These false gods are at fault. They're false, I should know. Worshipping Jesus like there's no tomorrow. This outbreak of the virus in English is called the crown. Devil manipulates. The heart gets deceived. The mind, the spirit, the flesh, they are at war. At war is constant. Devil has no mother. We're giving him too much credit. This song and dance isn't the way to Jesus. Light the way, set me on fire. I want to shine the light. Be the light. Be the fire. Which fire? The Holy Ghost, I should hope so. Pray when I die, I never go to hell. Jesus is my only Lord.
Yes. Hallelujah. Who made that?
Whew, yeah, I wrote, yeah.
You wrote that?
That's what, in the beginning of the pandemic is when I wrote this piece. But yeah. And you know who else inspired that rhythm? The Bird Bones Project. He had a song, he had a piece. It was like 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 3, sing me a medley. Like that's how he had it, and that's what inspired the rhythm of that piece.
I see we both shaved up, not cleaned up nicely. Look, I see we both cleaned up nicely today.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's what I wanted to share. So what do you guys, what's your thoughts on that? Wait, you're muted, Angela, you're muted.
That's why it's actually good because sometimes I find myself talking when I shouldn't be, and that's good. But then, of course, I'm talking and people can't hear me. But hey, Leon, I'm so happy to see you. So far for the open mic, we had our wonderful guest, Braden Michaels. We had a request for one of my pieces, and Andy's performed a piece real quick. So, Leon, do you have any pieces that you have to share for us? Because we're still waiting, because I'm still waiting for actual requests, Andy, to jump on the mic. But while Leon, because I just threw that on you, Braden, what did you think of our
I thought it was
wonderful
really
piece
good.
here,
I mean,
Bolero of Fire?
I just love the flow of the poem, and just the overall sentiment. So I mean, to me that was just a great piece.
Thank you. I appreciate that so much. Yeah, that was one of the first ones I wrote. That was like the very beginning of that lockdown. It's so funny. This piece like came from that. So it's interesting how so many things inspired the rhythm of the piece, the concept of it, but then this is what it is at the very beginning of it. So it's interesting. I look back now like, wow, this is what it was. This is how I felt. This is what came out of that in that time. So yeah. So I'm proud of this piece for sure.
Andy, what else in the DM? Oh, Leon, are you ready? You got something? Because I know we also have some DM pieces, but we're still waiting for requests. So, Leon, you got your piece?
Dated it. Yeah, I wrote this one, and it says July 2nd, 2014, and it's called Carnal. And since like I just came from church and everything, and Andy just did one about like, you know, his faith. I was like, well, you know what? I'm like, I might as well do one too. And it's actually one of my ones. I really do want to give this one published. Yeah.
This is Carnal. Beautiful. You said it was called Carnal?
All right. Oh, flesh, how rebellious you are. In vanity you speak as you dim like the stars. Restless is your drive, if let loose, in indulgence you thrive. No inhibitions, you are a raging child that never listens. A whirlwind of many sorts. Rage, lust, and greed is your resort. You are fire that intensely burns. Your favorite words are desire and yearn. Freedom, you scream loud as the banshee. You are thirst that can't be quenched. You strip down walls with no relent. You're reckless, never feel guilty nor repent. Your satisfaction is only a tease. In your truth, you aim to please. You're a glutton for urges, a buffet full of flesh. Eye candy to the black hole of cavities you ingest. To see is a stir, and to touch is the goal. You worship the body and damn the soul. Let a moment be a moment of pleasure galore. Yet the mind has been warped and has been made both a slave and a whore. You swim with the flow and release what you flaunt. Your flesh screams rich with the empty access of once carnal.
Wow.
That's really good.
Wow. I love that.
Thank you.
And that title is just fitting.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah.
I don't even remember what I was going through when I wrote it, but it's when
it don't matter. It's just good.
That's who you were at when it happened, you know?
Yeah. Thank you, Braden. Yeah,
I love hearing you read your work. I don't know if I could read a piece of yours on a flat piece of paper, or a flat screen. I love hearing you read your words and bringing them to life. I can't do anything else.
You've got a deep voice. Yeah. Again, when I heard the
baritone,
the interviews with Tara, when you read or even when you talk, like I feel like I'm listening to Shaft.
Oh,
but like
that's
but I say that in a complimentary way.
Oh no, I know.
When you speak, it's just full of life.
Oh man, man, thank you, man. I appreciate that. It's funny because I don't know, like every time I used to never like hearing my voice on record, and to be honest, I still don't. But it's funny because anytime someone hears my voice on record or just speak, your voice is so unique. It's so beautiful. It's like, oh, it's all right. It's all right. But I realize that when I read my poetry or even somebody else's, I always try to infuse what they were feeling or what I was feeling and just try to put my heart and soul into it. I think it comes out in the way I speak.
Right. That's good.
Amen. Amen.
So, Andy,
Yeah,
I know
did
you
have
had
some
some pieces that were
pieces
DM'd
sent to
to
me.
you. I'm still waiting for some requests. I'm still trying to find some friends to join us
I
on
try
the
to
live open
see if
mic.
I can
I know you
send
had some
CC a
stuff sent to you.
request too, because I feel like
I did already send CC. I got Andy. I've been sending CC. Don't you worry. I've been calling all the
Might as
people
well
out.
collab with CC.
But,
Her and me talked, and then my God,
oh yeah, that would be
oh
incredible.
man, melding of the minds. That oof, that'll be. I think it'll be some epic fire.
word. So, give me 1 second. I'm sorry, guys.
No
Hey
worries.
Andy,
What is going
I got
Okay, I see.
Andy.
Wait, what happened, Leon?
I gotta say this in love with the hat you're wearing and with like the new get up you got. You remind me of Craig David. I'm just getting the Craig vibes.
Wait, I look like what?
Craig David. Oh, you don't remember that British singer? Like,
Oh, I know.
You feel? Can
I
you
never thought about
Oh,
that.
Craig!
You're right.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Actually, I have one ready to go that was in the DM while you're pulling one up. From this one here, we had sent into it from A Poetry Run. Can I go to that one while you're pulling one up, Andy? All right, so this was sent to us. It's sent to Andy. This is from at A Poetry Run. Coffee and Literature on a Foggy Staten Island Morning, I believe is the title. I woke up an hour ago, pain along my back, anxiety has fled, and I'm alone in my bed, not as cold as it usually is without my fiancé by my side. I feel his touch, I respond to it, and I'm changing the skin I was in yesterday, finding new ways to smile in a misty morning. I don't need to rush anywhere. Time is its own psychotic drug, but I sit back and think about the birds. Constant chatter since 5 a.m., but I think they must know things I don't. The turning of the moon, a silent mist covering the neighborhood. New York in its entirety is somewhat beautiful. I just don't know the right words to use. Never mind the fucking order they should be in. That first cup of coffee is heaven. A fist wake and bake is a different kind of heaven. I gather my thoughts, take a deep breath, and let them all go. I want to flow. I just want to flow. No destination in mind, no time to be there. Let time crash on the floor, smashing into millions of tiny glistening pieces of glass. Coffee and literature on a foggy Staten Island morning. I want this beautiful, silent moment to last. Ghosts of my childhood lurking in shadows. They're only ghosts. Their time is past due. Summoning a greater power is what poetry does. Books and books and books let me flow into the page and melt its words. I want to write my own. I want to make the puzzle come together. The scent of books is mercurial. I felt the pain in my back subside, melting away and revolving itself into a dew. The nature of literature is mysterious. We just read and remember our past experiences. Quiet, sweet, delicious, seductive quiet in a world consumed by conversation and obliteration. It's a relief to know there is still some peace and quiet. Silence. Let my cry come unto thee. Let the sun rise slowly. Time can fuck off.
Whoa. Oh,
Mr.
God.
G.
That's a powerful.
Guys, and the whole, because I'm from New York, so I kind of get it too. So it's like,
you get it. Well, you get it. You know what a foggy Staten Island.
Yeah, because my brother used to live in Staten Island, so I know. So it's like, yep. But he lived on the very, very end of Staten Island, going into Bayonne, which is where I live. So the Bayonne Bridge is literally 5 minutes away. And it's interesting because I slept there once, I remember. But like the times I would go there, let's say a birthday gathering or whatever the case was, like just there's something about Staten Island that differs from like all the other boroughs in New York. Very interesting. So I like he was saying that stuff. I was like, yo, I get it. The grass no longer hidden by the snow. Like I love that. That is awesome, because I look at that as like again, I'm gonna dissect this, but I like to look at this like, there's sometimes the grass, you know how this real grass, there's fake grass, and then one thing I learned about life, sometimes grass ain't so green, but what happens is, we use fake grass to cover, the dirt that we don't want people to see. But what happens when snow goes on top of it, and then it ruins what's there, if that makes sense. That's the way I looked at that particular line. That's just how it spoke to me. And I think what it was is, if we don't take care of the land that we're given, then we might tarnish what could have been rather than what it is.
Yeah.
I don't know. So again,
wow.
I'm very, I don't know. I dissect it.
No, I love.
Yeah.
That was great. I really liked how you.
No, I was going to just add what he
any
was just
other
saying. Like, that's an
comments?
excellent perspective. I mean, and dissecting, poetry, like, there's so much beauty in that, because you talk to somebody else, they're going to have a different perception of that poem than maybe you. But I thought your spin on that was perfect. So I agree with that, like, with what you said.
But you know what's crazy? Like, for years, even since childhood, like, I don't want to say childhood, like more like teenhood going to adulthood, it's something that always spoke to me, was always the grass being green. Because when I saw artificial grass, it wasn't until I was in high school. So in high school, the you know how high school has like their park, the football field, whatever, and it was like, that's the first time I ever interacted with artificial grass. And the way that speaks to me now, like, it's like that artificial grass and regular grass, because you know how sometimes you go to places, there's grass, but then there's some dead weeds in that particular part of the grass and stuff like that. And I don't know, it's something about that always spoke to me. And then, like, as years later on came, when I would always, let's say, go to church sermons or read the Bible, whatever, it's grass always speaks to me in that way, like garden. And, like, for example, because my sister works at a food distributing place, and one thing she always says, oh, there's certain things that are out of season, so the demand is not always there. Like watermelon during the winter time is not in demand, so you don't see them a lot in the winter time. So in that same way, there's, like, if we're like, our home is pretty much the garden. Like, our surroundings is the garden, and who you invite in is part of that garden, right? But sometimes what happens is, when you invite the wrong things or the wrong people, or you seed when you seed your plants the wrong way, sometimes we're inviting things that don't belong there. So it's like, we try to water and seed things at certain times in our lives that don't apply, because if it wasn't the season for it, sometimes what you grow could grow in prematurely. And, the surroundings of your garden, the grass around it, could get tarnished. So in that same way, I look at it as well. That's why they say the grass ain't always green on the other side, because sometimes if you plant the wrong things, if you plant, whatever you plant could either grow your crop or it could ruin your crop. And that's how life speaks to me every single day. So that's the way there's something about grass and land, like, life always speaks to me in that way.
Interesting.
Yeah, I don't know.
No, I mean, but it's a good way to look at it. I mean,
yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
So Andy, did you get
I got it now.
that you had sent
So
to you? And who are you going to be reading now?
I'm gonna just write it on here, because I can't pronounce.
All right.
So
That's
it's
good. Again, if you're just joining us, we are having our open mic. We're just reading some ones that were DM'd to us. Because,
no one has joined yet.
We're waiting for you guys to want to join us. I did try and nudge a few random people to come join us. Hopefully you have something to share, or if not, get somebody who does have something to share. Otherwise, we'll just keep reading the DMs. That's no problem. We got plenty of stuff.
That's who I'm reading.
And of course, we have our amazing guest.
Yeah, I can't pronounce that. I'm sorry. He's probably gonna see this person will see the replay and be like, okay, what's going on? Okay, it's an untitled piece, of course. So it says, yeah,
and it's untitled.
The magic is effortless, though the word is broken. A seam of sense, shashik mind before mouth. Make mountains of gods, make circles holy. The eyes a moon, the eyes a sun, the mouth a zero. The gnome behind newborn code counting words is deaf. Yeah.
Wow. Brayden, what do you got for me on that one? Do you have any thoughts on that?
That's just profound. I mean, that's probably the best word I can probably pick to really describe that. I mean, that's just,
Yeah, I would say that's a pretty good, I don't know if I can come up with a better word other than profound. Andy, when you saw that, what were you thinking? Like, oh my gosh, how am I going to do
that's
this
exactly what I was thinking. It's so interesting because this is my first time interacting with this poet there, like I came across this page because sometimes that's why I love when it suggests stuff, and I try to follow new accounts as well. This one only has 405 people, but it looks like this person hasn't really been here that long like that. But it's pretty interesting how I don't know, I could come across a piece like that. It just speaks to me that way. Like it's so it reminds me, I don't know if this will fall under surrealism, but that's the vibe I did get from that a little bit.
I can see that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because there's so many different, like the mouth zero, like that's pretty interesting because when you I'm shocked, it doesn't like a circle or a zero. It doesn't look like that. So it's pretty interesting. I take that as a state of shock. Like, oh, like what's going on? When magic is effortless, that's pretty interesting too because I don't look at that as a magic trick. Rather, when someone's vibe is so magical, like right now, I feel like this is a magical situation here because it's like we're feeding off each other's energy and we're having such a great time. We're relating, we're having this great conversation. This type of magic is so effortless. We don't need effort, if that makes sense. It's like it just works. Like our energy just works. Yeah. That's how that speaks to me.
Yeah, I would agree. Well, I think that's a really good way to put it. I guess Braden, right? We needed Andy to kind of clean all the thoughts up, right? With these, really, you guys are
so my mind, my mind is weird like that. Let's say if I see a fly on the wall, I'm gonna start thinking about, okay, but why is this fly here? Like, why is he doing that with his legs? Why that particular spot when he could have been there because it's more moldy on that spot? Like, I'm that guy. My mind is like that, even in my head.
But that's good though, actually, because that means that you're very analytical. So I mean, and I'm the same way. The only flaw with that is you can analyze things that aren't really all that important. I do that a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
My wife, and my wife will tell you that.
I drive my wife crazy. She's like, "Babe, why do you have thoughts like that?"
Yeah,
I don't know. Like I remember. I read a piece by Robert Charbonneau, and he says something about the spider. Like, let's say you're in the bathroom, you see a spider web, you see the spider just standing there, and because he sees you, it's probably scared of you, but you start getting scared of it, type of thing. And I'm like, I'm that guy that if I'm brushing my teeth, why is that spider? Why did he choose that spot?
Right.
When he could have went maybe more in a different spot where I don't see him. Why did he allow me to want to see him in that spot? Like, I'm that person, but my mind works like that, even because I was always sheltered growing up. So all I had really was the four walls of my bedroom, right? Because even after my brother moved out and I just had my own space pretty much, that's all I did. Like, it was wrestling, it was music, and it was always writing. That was the main thing. I didn't really go outside like that. I didn't interact with people like that until I got a little bit older. But my mind was like that to that point that I would write them stuff down, or I would analyze that hole in the wall. Like, how did it get like that? What was that person doing that when he was painting that wall? Why did that hole happen the way that it did? Or why did the wall cracks open like that? That every time they try to paint the wall over again, fix it, it gets cracked again. Why is it doing that? What is it? Right. And then it was always the whole laws of physics thing. It's the physics of it. What is causing that effect, especially in project buildings? And that was always but my mind, when I'm in my mind a lot, my mind, I visually see it in my mind too. Like, I'm in my old bedroom and
Andy, that's so cool that your mind is like that. Like, all of us have these incredible inner workings that seem to drive our own creative force. And Andy, the way you described your thoughts is exactly such an incredible way that your piece was earlier when you shared Bolero of Fire. Like that, we could see that inner working. I wanted to get you an opportunity to say one more thing about that before. The next one I wanted to read for us is from a jail deal about poetry. I know that was another one that was sent to us. But Yes. I'm going to take care of that one. And if you wanted to get
Okay.
in the ether after that, I know you said there was one from Ben since. And then I think we might have one or two other ones. And then at Braden, we want to end the night again with one of your pieces, if possible. If you're just joining us, we have open mic right now. And hopefully, please let us know that you want to join us. We haven't had anybody really jump on the mic to read their own piece yet, except that's fine. We have a few that have been sent to us. We also had the incredible Braden Michaels, who joined us for the first hour. After just joining us, we talked about his 5 poetry books and how they're each a different kind of theme, a thematic. And his new one coming out this month on April 25th, which is the same date as his first book 3 years ago, is going to be a collection of the greatest hits from those 5 collections. So again, if you're just joining us, please let us know. Hey, welcome. If you want to jump on the mic and read some piece of yours. Otherwise, we'll get to you soon. But this was sent to us through Lightless Years in Grassy Abandon. This is Jade Dielba poetry. It is power. It is a window or a wrecked night full of desire. Something is indeed a crashing wave. The story sails on even now. When all is done, we hear the breath of time appear. The trees are weeping in their discovered nuisance. A single myth cannot control this, even while the feathers of God are distracted by our wild, wild measures for a creation's thread. Yielding, we surely control whatever immense shield of earth drowns. Thrice, like wicked bones, a single star falls upon a skin. Perhaps mine is not nearly as true as the kiss we give to the world, and we wait for our superstition to end. Thus, freedom starts to yield. It crawls beyond this reality. Yes, though, could we obscure the hills, our mouth can demand of us whatever it can overthrow. Thirst in itself is crawling over some towering eyes. We must never become witness for a love without its punishment, or another hand, or a conjuring sleep. Love flowers into twilight. Wings like an escape, our faces demand it all. Eternity is our laborious horizon. Our eyes continue to see it. Perfection works with separation and odd, dull features. Dreams cannot promise a treasure, even as nobility draws out the knife of an uprightness between teeth and virtue's height. All of this is calling to close the fathering Arctic. We wait, and through lightless years in grassy abandon, a double act comes forth. Now the sun shimmers and fractures, dodging echoes and forgotten
yeah, I love Hyro. I love the way Hyro writes.
Wow, Hyro, wow. That is incredible. It kind of has a narrative style. Braden, I know that was like, you talked about utilizing different styles, even writing short stories before.
I love
what do you
that.
Think of that more of
that
narrative
was very
poetry?
colorful. The imagery in that was really good.
I would completely agree. I love the actual term of the laborious horizon, fathering Arctic. You know, through should we obscure the hills, like love flowers into twilight. Again, Braden, I think you said it best with that imagery. You feel like you're in each of these kind of scenarios. What else about Hyro's poetry?
See, because I have known him since when he first came in here in the scene, 2019, 2020 was when he really started. Because his main thing is surrealism, but he also paints and he also does a lot of confessional stuff too. Mm-hmm. He does a little bit of everything, but like one thing about him, he has a way of words. He has a way of describing things that I'm just like, damn, I don't know if I would have said it in that way. I probably would have said it a different way. And I feel like between me and him, I'm just very basic and simple. He's just very authentic and like, oh my God, this is crazy because I would have never said the same thing that way. And I love that about him because every time I read his pieces, it's like that. I want more of his stuff, you know?
I don't even know the guy, but the vocabulary in that poem was just phenomenal. Like, I love vocabulary like that and how the wording is just a little unique. It's not, to your point, it's not basic. It's not straightforward. So I don't even know him, but like that was really good.
Yeah, he works a lot with Robert Kazi a lot too. Him and they do collaborate a lot. Yeah, Eli, if anything, send it to us through a DM, and then we'll read it because there's no way we're gonna see it through the comments.
Well, it sounds like it. I mean, it looks incredible. Almost, can we have you say it? I mean, I would love to hear from Elijah Abram if possible. I'll try and get that friend back in. Yeah, again, the way the vocabulary really sets that stage, it really is such a beautiful piece. Did you have that bedtime piece ready to go? Which is it? The one that?
No, so this is because he always tags us in our stuffs in our page. So I said, let me at least read this one because I've been wanting to read some of his stuff out loud. So I wanted to get him known as well. He's cool. I like Ben. I love working with Ben. I like interacting with him. That's what I meant to say. So,
I sent it because he wanted me to read it because he was on here, and I was like, oh. But you're
wait,
right.
So who is this?
It was Mike.
Yeah, so
it was Mike. So go on.
No, what was his name?
Crazy Mike. He was just on here in the thing. I said hello to him, and he does.
Oh, I see it. Crazy Mike's Life. Okay, got you. So go ahead. You could go ahead and read it. Yeah.
So you're going to read one of his pieces. Oh, my gosh, thank you. Will you read one of his pieces? It's okay that you're reading somebody else's. I'm so happy to hear your voice read a piece.
I'll put it through. I'm hoping that I'm able to put it through again. Okay, it says, moving on, some less fortunate. But can I ask, what is it worth? To open one door, to close another. It's just the way life goes. People stay. People go. People go.
Is it just me? It's just I was okay. I wasn't.
We asked. Okay,
no,
here's the ending part. We asked, or do we know? The answer we can show. It's the past. That's it.
That was it. Wait. So.
Can you do me a huge favor? Will you read it again real quick? Because you cut out in the middle of it. I think you just came back in the right spot, but can you do it one more time?
Yeah.
Just
okay.
Roll it so we can really. Because the chop threw my brain off a little bit, and I want to hear how great.
This is the beginning. Moving on seems less fortune, but can I ask, what is it worth? To open one door, to close another. It's just the way life goes. People say, people stay, people go. We ask. And then I had to post that part, and then I had to read the rest because I can't, because I have not enough in the thing. People say, people go. We ask, do we know? The answer, can we show? It's the past. That's it.
That was wow.
Really good.
Hey Kendra, welcome in. We're doing open mic, or if you want to DM us something, you can send us something, or you could pop in and read a piece too. That's fine. Welcome. But yeah, moving on.
Elijah, wait, hold on.
He didn't send a title with that. That's something he wrote. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm sorry.
No, great piece. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it was pretty incredible.
I always wonder that. What is it worth when we have to move on? It's like what I was saying earlier about the seasons and the grass and stuff like that. When some things are out of season, we have to start letting it go so we can make room for new roots, for new plantation, for new seeds or new crop to grow. Because when it's like watermelon, when it's out of season, you have to be, so the watermelon represents the thing you have to let go, because the new crop you grow, that's going to be the one that's going to prepare you for that following season, because the season that's in right now is a transitional season. And in transitional season, it prepares you for the season that you're meant to be in. So that's that. I feel like in that same way, when we close that one door, there's another door that has to open. But during the process between closing this door and going to the next door, there's that middle phase. There's that middle part that like the hallway, I guess, if that makes sense. There's that hallway that you have to walk through in order for you to get to that door to open it. But if you don't have the key, you can't really open that door, because maybe you haven't learned the lesson you had to learn from this particular transitional aspect of the hallway before you could open that door. So I think in that same way, moving on is hard, and reminded me of a picture I saw years ago where there was like a hand and he was holding on to a rope, and it says when you learn to let go, then your hand doesn't hurt as much. Because if you ever hold something for a long time like this, the longer you hold it, the more your hand's gonna hurt, right? But eventually what happens is this happens, and when you can't hold on much longer, you fall. And if you land and you hurt yourself, now it's not even about this hurting. Now your body hurts because now you put your body in a situation you could have avoided if only you learned to let go of the rope.
Yeah, and letting go is the toughest thing. Letting go is so hard to do. I couldn't agree with you more, Andy, on that. While I have all three of you on the line.
Hold on. I'm sorry. My bad. Illustrator Poet is here, and I haven't seen this guy in a while. Brother, if you can pop in and do something for us. Okay, this guy lives on the other side of...
I got you. So I'm going to request...
If he wants to, if he can. I think it's morning for him. Yeah. Illustrator Poet. This guy has an arsenal unlike... Oh, wait, did Braid... Oh, there he goes. Illustrator Poet, if you can, bro, I would love for you to pop in and read a piece or two, bro. Dude, this guy, I haven't seen this guy in such a long time, and I feel like he... Oh man, his piece, man.
Well, I just said it. Well, while we're waiting for that person to join us, this was sent to me. This is not the person who sent it to me, but this is John Paul Poetry of Burning Empires and Love First Light. While we're waiting for, hopefully, our friend to join us, because we are running out of time and we want to get the ones that were at least sent to us ahead of time. At love's first light, neither man nor woman bears a visible scar. It's only when the light fades or when the sun sets or when weary euphemisms are set aflame do two individuals stand naked and trembling before God and before each other, with faults and scars plain to see. And make no mistake, darling, our love was no more than a burning empire from the moment we locked eyes. And yet we clung to each other through hope and through ruin until we were left gasping, king and queen of the ashes, reaching feebly for our crowns and not one another. But my head is heavy and my feet are leaden, and I can no longer breathe without you.
Wow. That's deep.
I can no longer breathe without you. Again, that was sent in. That's a John Paul Poetry of Burning Empires and Love's First Light. Braden, I got to hear from you because that kind of, I know you said that you like to do some of these kind of types of poetry here. What are your thoughts on this one? And also, what do you think about this one?
And this is from who again? Who was the person?
Again, John Paul Poetry.
Yeah, I think that's just another poem with just some great vocabulary, and that flowed really well.
Mm-hmm. So poetry with good vocabulary is
it really does.
Gets Braden.
It tells me about someone's intellect and brain and creativity.
Can I give a hot tip for all of our friends out there? If you feel uncomfortable with your vocabulary, go to powerthesaurus.com. You put in your word, and oh my gosh, it gives you an upper level vocab. You take your 5-cent word and you get yourself a $1.50 word by going to powerthesaurus.com, because you're saying that's really what gets that quality out,
I
right,
agree.
Braden?
And just again, and I think just that, but playing with words, like just using the yin and the yang of just changing a few words here and there. So again, not everything is straightforward. You can use all kind of like metaphors and make something symbolic. To me, that's really appealing.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's wonderful. Our friend declined. Andy, did you have
Yeah.
He's like, I've set him up.
It's all right. Then he probably can't. It's all good. But next time.
Love that.
Okay.
No. Let's do this in the ether. Oh, you're saying it next time for our friend.
You want to read it or I read it?
No, you read it. You got it.
Detoxing for Lent is called, and this is by In the Ether Poetry. Shut your fucking mouth and give me back my barbiturates. I'm choking on blood and mucus. I'm never doing acid on an empty stomach again. Little Bobby is dressed as a fucking Disney princess. The Russian hooker in little Oseta are cheaper than the Hungarian ones in London. Drip, 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 drip. Fix the goddamn faucet. Wait, what? Panama. The Coke is from Panama. Pinwheel, lollipop, butterscotch. I sculpt disorder with clay, abstract, octagons, purple balloons, blood, red moon. Faces, spaceman, the carousel in reverse, restless leg, diazepam, fiend. Her baby has eyes like mine. That little boy smiles just like me. Burns St. Christopher, pagan crux. Shut the fuck up, please. Just shut the fuck up. I can't hear myself see.
Woo!
Yeah.
I can't hear myself
Yeah.
see.
I know I mispronounced some words. I apologize, but I was always told to keep going, so that's what I did.
Those medical terminologies are
It's fire.
Brady, what do you got for me on that one? He's a real hot one with if you've ever read any Ether poetry, I'm not sure you have, but he is just power punch
that hits a lot of nerves.
Raw, hardcore.
Just hearing that. I mean,
especially because of your connection with I know not necessarily his is addiction related, but connection to addiction, perhaps.
I was gonna say.
So how did it connect to you?
No. I was just saying that I like it. Okay, yeah.
No, Brady,
go ahead.
No, I was
Brady,
just agreeing with you. Yeah, I mean that sounds very much like addiction related.
Yeah, addiction is very, very hard. So I came to Christ in 2013. Before that, I was not in a good place, obviously. I've talked about it before. So, I just had a drinking problem. Drugs was never an issue for me, but smoking, it's like whatever. Everybody smoked a cigarette or whatever, but drugs was always drinking was always a thing with me. Like whatever could medicate my pain. I didn't care what it was. I've gotten drunk to the point that I would be in a park bench, homeless people would steal my money, and I'm like, okay, how did this happen? And I don't remember nothing. I remember times I would be in a park very OD'd, not remembering how I got there kind of thing. So when I came to Christ, and then I started to transition into, okay, look, I've tried everything. I don't know where I'm going. So I've never met you. I've never seen this physical thing, but I'm trusting you with my life. So here, I am scared to shit because I don't know what is going to happen. So I don't know what I'm getting myself into, because I've had all these bad experiences when it came to religion and all this other stuff. And I realized, well, it's not about the religion, it's about the relationship. But I had to go through a journey of trying to understand, differentiating the difference. But when you're addicted to alcohol like that, that struggle was real. And that did run in my family a lot, especially my father. I grew up watching him getting depressed and drunk every time the anniversary of his mom. And then let's say if something bad happens, he was always depressed and he would get drunk. Or like even my older brother used to drink a lot and he would get depressed. All those things, that negativity always ran in my household growing up. So that's why, again, when I was saying about the whole four walls, it wasn't about the what, it was more about the why and how. That's how my mind works. Like if I see what's going on, but I don't care about what this is, I want to know how this is here or why that's here and when did it get here. That's how my life works. And it's good, but it's also bad because I've realized because I overthink too much, it's gotten to that point where I would drive myself crazy trying to find answers to questions that I'm never going to get the fucking answers to. And that is always, 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 always. And one of the hardest lessons I had to learn is that we have to learn to accept when things are just not going to be what it is, if that makes sense, right? Because acceptance is something I always struggled with. And it wasn't on purpose. It's just I don't like accepting something if I know there's more to a story or to a situation. But what gets me mad is when it looks like, okay, I'm just never gonna know the answer, or I'm never gonna know, and that's it. It bothers the shit out of me. It bothers me to the point that it's like, but why? But how? I didn't do anything, or I don't see what the issue is. And my mind does not understand emotions sometimes, that when I react, I don't even understand why I'm even reacting. That sometimes my wife will look at me like, okay, but why you I mean, I don't know. It's just my mind does not process. And me having I don't want to use my mental health thing as an excuse, because I'm diagnosed with schizotypal personality disorder, but I don't like to use that as an excuse. But it's one of those things that it's just one of those things. But I guess what makes me different is I'm aware, I guess, in opposed to someone that has it that's not really aware. But that's my thing. I'm too aware, but I'm too stubborn to do something about it, and that is always my problem too. I don't know. Did that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, as long as you can recognize that, that's the most important
No, it
part.
did. Yeah, and the fact that you're recognizing the way your brain patterning is working, that's what you need to be able to do. Is you have to figure out how you.
Yeah, but I've been.
You can fit the network in.
Following to what you're saying,
Yeah,
I've been sent to the hospital because of that. Because I would say things that, and I came from a time. See, like it's messed up now. How now things are acceptable.
Mm-hmm.
People could think like this, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
I came from a time that was not okay to think like that. It was not okay to be like that. And when you live in a Hispanic fucking household, especially 1950s Puerto Ricans that don't understand shit, that don't really, not Americanized, they lived in the island, came here, whatever, and then they didn't talk about this shit. So of course my father's like, oh, whatever the doctor says is right. Okay, just take them there. And if I can describe to you the agony, the pain, the anguish I went through as a child into teenhood, that it affected my adulthood, I wouldn't be able to. But I can tell you what.
Andy, I think we should have a day where we speak with you on that. I think we should designate some time on that if you're willing to do that.
Yeah, I'm
I
open
think
to
hearing
that.
from you, because you're right. Because I want to go into this now.
No, yeah, okay. But I'll just shorten. I'll shorten this. So I'll put it in short. So what it all comes down to is acceptance is something I always struggled with. So I'm learning now that humility is a hard lesson. That I'm learning that very well. And us men, we are stubborn and we are very prideful. We don't want to admit when we're wrong. And I grew up.
I can't argue
this
that.
Connects right back to Braden. Braden mentioned this at the start of our show. Oh my God, Braden, will you talk about that again? Because you were hoping your son takes that from you as one of the life lessons from the poetry. Will you echo that same statement again? And Andy, you can comment on it about masculinity.
To his point, I mean, there's times that I'm wrong about something with my wife, even with my son, and I apologize to my son about something if I'm wrong. Doesn't matter. I mean, it doesn't matter whether I'm the father, in the house. Like, he's got to learn, even at a young age, it's okay to be wrong. It's okay to just say, I made a mistake. Parents are no different than a child. Like, I'm human, you're human, so he's learning those lessons. I tell him when I'm wrong. I give him a hug and tell him, like, it's okay. Tomorrow I'm gonna learn from today. As long as you're doing that on a daily basis, life is good.
Wow. It's so good. Okay, because
Andy, before you respond, Andy, I just want to set us up, because after you respond, I wanted to go one from Sardonic Words. I had a recent one from them. And then we can maybe, again, if you want to still join us tonight, the open mic is still available. Nobody necessarily wanted to join us yet. I do have some people who are like, I'm coming up next week. I'm going to join us for like a song or performance next week. So good there. I want to wrap up. I definitely want to get this conversation, but I also want our friends knowing where we're going to go with the car here. So after you guys talk about the masculine, I'm going to go into this last poem, and then we'll
perfect. So I have Braden end it.
So talk about So now that I paused that really awesome conversation in the middle of it, on pause, go back.
No, it's so true what you're saying, because And you know what? Even after this, we gotta do like a part 2 where we could talk more in depth on this because this is really good. We don't talk about this, but
Always.
the issue with me growing up was my dad never did that. That's the problem. Our emotions were not allowed. That's why me and my brother, we bickered a lot. Me and my sister, we bickered.
See, but that's the
Brayden,
thing,
did your
though.
dad do that for
I was
you?
in a household where my dad didn't do that either. So everything I do with my son, I do the opposite of what my dad did.
Exactly. And that's what I want. That's what I want from my son's only 4. But you know what's funny? And I say this is my first and only child. I'm gonna be 38. My wife's 45. This is our first child together. And one thing I can honestly say, I've learned more about myself through my child and through my marriage than I've ever learned in my entire life. Because I've come to a realization right when you think you had all the answers, nah. And the crazy part, especially if you have God on your side, God will humble the shit out of you. God will show you, no, you need to chillax. Like,
you will
hold
learn
up.
more from your child about yourself through your child. I see that every day. So
It is
talk about humility.
Crazy. Yeah.
I see that all the time.
In my
son, my son and my wife make me a better person every day.
Yes. And the crazy part about it is, I look back down like, oh, so that's why my dad was like that. Even though I understood and I didn't agree with everything he did, but I understand now why he was the way he was. And you know what sucks? And you know what's crazy about that? Because when I was growing up, I understood, but I never knew the whole circle until now I'm going through it myself. There's a circle. The circle's finally complete now because it's like.
Can I throw a crazy wrench at you two gentlemen?
Okay, and I'm going to say one thing.
Because you two have back up something beautiful.
With one thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
But on this topic.
This is one of my favorite books.
On this topic.
This is one of my favorite books. It's a children's book. This is one of my favorite fucking books. And I'm going to tell you why. Because.
Yeah, the missing piece.
Because he's always trying to find his missing fucking piece. And you know what sucks when you find the missing piece? Sometimes, you know, there's a part of the book that he says, you know, that he ended up missing out on the other stuff, not because he has this whole piece, but the way that thing spoke to me is, if you find that missing piece, it's okay to miss out on some things because those things were only meant for a time. When you have circles, sometimes it's all about your circle. That's the way that book speaks to me. But I just wanted to just bring that up.
I love that you did that.
And
I think that's great. But what if you are in a situation where you have children and you knew these things about yourself and you're trapped in your own nightmare, so to speak, because you are reliving your own childhood all over?
War between your mind, your soul, your heart, and it's a war that we constantly have to, you know. If you ever get the chance, just look up, when you get the sense, there's a song called Hate Me by, I think it's called Blue October.
Yeah, I remember that song.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I didn't understand it then until I understood it now. I listened to it. I was like, oh wow, why does that resonate differently now? Like, holy shit.
But back to what you're saying, there's a war. But if you listen more to your heart and your soul and ignore the mind, you're probably better off.
Well, we can go a whole other hour on that topic for sure, gentlemen. So here is one more piece I got on my end. It's from Sardonic Words. It's the latest one here. It doesn't have a title, but there is a comment here. What ifs are my biggest arch nemesis. I have suffered a lot because of my what ifs. I walk 5 steps more. I walk an hour longer. I keep my back doors open, and I give and I give and I give until somebody comes in and shows me how bare minimum is until sometimes is enough. When will I fucking learn to wear a short dress and to rock my body like I fucking own it? So again, it's kind of like this kind of a power piece that we're going to see coming up right here. So don't cut that seam, not 2 inches short anyways. If you ever ask me why I can't cut short, I always say, because what if I grew in height? What if somehow if it shrank in the dryer? What if I want to wear it overlapping my belly button? I can never cut short. I always keep a length more. I always give a length more. I always walk a length more. My what ifs are my arch nemesis. I am so drowned in my what ifs that I don't know where I should cut. What if all that I ever do is never enough? And what if I leave a trace of regret and it comes back to haunt me? My what ifs are my catastrophe. I have always given more and always kept the back door open. It's time I cut 4 inches short and wear that 3/4 like I own it. And for once, I let the world know that whatever I do is enough. So kind of like the flip side of that whole masculinity conversation that you guys were having throughout this whole evening, we also have kind of like a body image feminine piece about I am enough. I'm more than just, you know, the length of a certain item and all that stuff. My what ifs are never, you know, I want to be enough. So what did you two think of this amazing piece? If you don't know sardonic words, you definitely need to get a hold of this person. Star, she's incredible.
It just relates to everything we've been talking about.
Right.
There's always the ifs. But it's like I said before, I see what it is, but I want to know the how, the why, and then when. The where could always be secondary to me, but it's always the how, the when, and the why for me.
I agree with that.
I like that. I like how you always have. Andy, your mind is precious. I'm happy that you're able to showcase and share your mind.
I scare my wife sometimes, though. My wife's like, that's interesting. I gotta say, because I'll say stuff, because me and my wife, we always have deep conversations a lot, whether it's God or whatever it is, and then she'll look at me like, you know, that's a very interesting way of thinking. I'm like, yeah, I know. I don't know where it comes from, but I love it. Like, it's crazy.
Braden also had a really deep connection with his wife right now, and that her support has been very important to him as well, right, Braden?
I wouldn't be publishing the amount of books that I have if it wasn't for her. She encourages that for me to keep going.
And that's very important for both of you guys to have that support at home and push you. Hers, she's is what is pushing you forward. You're moving, but without their pushing, you might not be where you are right today.
It doesn't matter what age you are, that you want to fulfill a dream. Doesn't matter when you start. So he's learning that lesson right now too. I mean,
I'm hitting 40 and I'm starting my career now.
It doesn't matter when.
You know,
as long as
doesn't matter how old you are. You started it. You getting it.
That's all that
matters. Right, Andy?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, if you are passionate about what you are doing and the connection that I think we are trying to make with each other, because again, your words, your creation, you know, Braden, Andy, Leon's with us, all the ones that we shared tonight, the people that said they were going to come on the mic, you know, we want to get your work out there. And if, you know, you're just joining us, we're actually about to close the show with Braden hopefully sharing another piece of his, because his 6th book, which will be a collection of his first 5 poetry books. And I just want to end our night one more time going through this amazing poetry author. Thank you and short story novelist as well. Thank you for joining us and sharing. If you've missed this hour 1, Andy was stuck at work, unfortunately. He'll be catching up with the amazing conversation that we had with Braden. But Braden's been in 3 anthologies, but he also has 5 poetry books, with his 6th one coming out on the 25th. The Raven's Poison. Whenever I say Raven's Poison, my mouth wants to just gargle. When you came up with the Raven's Poison, did you have any issues saying that, Braden?
And I thought, man, I want to write a poem using that cover in mind. And so when I put my collection together, since my book is a lot about patterns and most of it is pretty dark, I thought the raven is very symbolic to the devil. So pick your poison, pick your concoction to understand the human condition. So that's kind of how I came up with that.
Wow. Oh, I love that. So based off the imagery and how you connect, you know what it is, Braden? It's because I have the word poetry written after poison, and that's what's twisted my lips up. But the Raven's Poison, I can say just fine, but seeing the poetry after it. That was, again, dark about the human condition. I know we had heavy hits of your, not necessarily you personally, but your experiences dealing with your ex-wife and her addiction and how terrible her experience was with that and your relationship with that. That was back on April 25th, 2020. Then you had Stella Walker's Acquaintances, which, Andy, you're going to love this one. It's actually, Braden, can you talk about it?
It's very character-based.
Again, Stella Walker's Acquaintances.
Each poem
is character-based.
And it's a it's symbolic of all the people you meet in your life. So it's really like, to summarize this quickly, it has an epilogue. So it's a woman that's a widow. So throughout the book, she meets all these characters. And at the very end, she realizes each person has molded her personality now, even though she's a widow. So at the end of the book, basically, she finds herself. She sees the beauty of being a widow. Even though that loss was hard and difficult, she sees herself no longer a wife. She sees herself as who she is now. That's the essence of the entire book. So one of the common things that I emphasize in this book is that you've got real friends, and then you got acquaintances, people that just stumble across your life, but still make some little tiny impact on you in some way. Every person you meet throughout your life,
I'm just so fascinated by this concept.
Is going to make some kind of impact on you in some form or fashion.
And he actually knew somebody who kind of inspired this whole entire characteristic of this. It's so great. Then after that, we have, and you're going to like this one too. This is The Unpaved Crossroads, which each poem is its own crossroad of a road, because it's based off of the concept of the poetry collection is Robert Frost's The Road Not Traveled. So each of those poems goes down a road that somebody hasn't traveled on. Then we go into Braden's political piece with Growl from the Sun and other poems, which his wife loves because we feel like it's maybe true to his word, instead of just necessarily collection of this great concept. And then finally, back in October, for their 9th wedding anniversary, he wrote a collection of love poetry called For You, Love Always. And that was back in October of last year. So his book coming out this April 25th, which is called Between the Verses and the Ink, Volume 1, will be the heavy hitters of all 5 of those. So if you're just new to Braden Michaels, which no big deal, some of you might not have heard of this incredible writer, even though they've already had 5 books already put out there. Now you get to have kind of like your intro to Braden Michaels at the end to see where you want to go in the beginning and your journey through. So it's such a great conversation that we had earlier. Braden, do you have a poem that we can end our night with?
For You Love Always. It's called The 2 O'Clock Bistro.
I'm sorry, what time bistro? The 2 o'clock
Sapphire
bistro.
eyes shifting to the left in the Chardonnay air, quietly humming a melody, slightly neurotic but magnetic, staring into her sunny side spring salad, gazing at her soft alabaster skin, exchanging sarcastic one-liners, chuckling over circus-like jokes, stumbling into a conversation of psychology, the sound of delicate piano prancing in our ears, comforting and pleasant. A first date, surveying her countless layers, probing her intuition and critical thinking, analytics spinning in her octagon, appreciating her fondness of classical music, fumbling into the intensity of Ayn Rand dissecting the fountainhead with an exceptional view, a beautiful glimpse of the 2 o'clock bistro.
Ooh. Yeah, I retire from poetry. I retire.
Was it 2 o'clock? Was it
No,
time 2 o'clock when you wrote this?
Or
was just the 2 o'clock bistro came to you?
Yeah.
I love the title.
I'm going to create an imagery of a first date for 2 people and what he felt of what it was like.
Oh, well, success. The 2, I mean, obviously 2 must have came into your mind, but the 2 o'clock because of the 2 the 2 people,
Words just appear in my head, and I
love it.
Thought like, this sounds really good. I'm just going to run with it and flow with it. So.
And is that like you? Yeah. Words just come into your head and it flows with you? Because I'm very similar to our CC flow. When CC came on, she described it as she's like a vessel and it just kind of flows through her. That's kind of how I feel like sometimes my creative process is. So you're getting these really great concepts just words are coming into your ear, the 2 o'clock bistro, and then, oh my God, we have this beautiful 2 people on a first date, and here it all unfolds. And it seems like a perfect piece for the For You Love Always poetry thematic situation. Andy, I know you got something to say.
It's just you pretty much just summed it up for me. You get out of my head, Angela. No, yeah, it's like the whole flow thing. At the end of the day, it just comes in. The only thing I struggle with sometimes is titles. I'm not good at titles. Like I feel like the way I get my titles is I'll read the poem and I'll look for a word in the poem that looks cool. Say, okay, I'll call it this. But even though that one word would have nothing to do with what the poem's about. But I think that's what makes it. That's what makes my pieces very authentic. That it's okay. It throws the person off. Like I said, like 2 o'clock bistro, 2 o'clock bistro. That's a very interesting title, and it's just like you said. It just describes a whole thing there. I like it a lot.
I was telling Angela that I thrive on that. I want a title to stand out. So when you're going through the feed on Instagram or even WordPress or anything, that's going to stand out. Someone's going to want to read that. The more you make the title more creative and even surreal, like it's going to be a magnet. More people.
That's a really good piece of advice. You got to grab, because again, they're scrolling through millions of ads on top of work, on top of trying to maybe find you, that if you don't grab somebody by the eyeballs, God damn it, they're not going to even see you. I think that's really important to say.
Yeah.
The reality.
Yeah.
You got to market yourself. You got to market yourself in a way that grabs the attention. So, like, what was your favorite title that you've ever come up with, Braden?
Yeah, well,
do you have one? I know I hate to put you on the spot like that.
The title and this title came to me as a teenager, and it stuck with me. And I used it later on in the Raven's Poison, is Rattle in a Cage.
Oh, wow. Why do I sense like a Alice in Chains type of vibe there?
So, yeah, I have 2 parts of that poem, but actually, yeah, like that again, that title stuck with me for years. I'm thinking one day I'm going to make this into a poem. Yeah.
Wow, that would be great. Well, Andy, we're already 30 minutes past due of the 2-hour mark, so you know I'm already doing a bad job keeping the ship tight, but it was just too good. Okay. Even though nobody jumped on the mic, it was just such an honor to be on this mic stage with both of you gentlemen. Leon joined us earlier. We also had our guest for next Friday. Elijah Abraham also jumped on the mic. Next week, there were some people that told me Electric Armchair hopefully will perform one of her pieces next week. We'll remind them as we get closer. Braden, before we actually officially end the live, what other things can you let us know walking away today that would really just this is what I need to know.
Well, number one, I've never done a live, period. So I'm not even up this late.
Really?
I had to take take a nap.
I'm always up.
You know, I have a 6-year-old boy almost. So, but you know what? We're about done here. I have more energy right now than I've ever had all day. So,
wow.
Like this was really fun. This was exciting to do. I'd love to do this again at some point.
Yes.
Heck yeah.
We gotta do a part 2 for sure. Yes.
Gotta do a part 2. So Brady, it looks like from here on out, hopefully we'll continue to do this format. And thank you for being I don't want to call you a guinea pig because that's not the case, for being our first willing participant as far as the interview part 1, and then just staying around for the open mic portion part 2. And I appreciate hearing that you have so much energy, even though you're going to get up really early tomorrow and you'll be cursing our names tomorrow morning. And I'm sorry.
Damn you, Unraveled Influence.
Angela kept me up.
She's in Texas, so to me, when I get the opportunity just to have time with him, I'm making memories.
Yeah,
like it's all good.
Oh, yes.
I don't care what time he wakes up.
We got to get his little Post-it notes up on the fridge,
buddy,
of his thoughts.
But thank you for having me, and again, like this was great.
Yes, I agree.
Well, please tell all of your cohorts to come on our show and continue to connect with each other. And again, we like this community because this community is important. And Andy, I say it every week. I'll say it every time. Andy, thank you for bringing this together. Because again, we really do want to put everybody's work out there in the hands of other people. So hopefully we can get next week. We'll have our next giveaway. So tell your friends if you're interested. We send collections of people's stuff out to people. So next week on our next open mic, hopefully we can get another giveaway out, Andy. So we'll start advertising that. Looking forward to next week. We also have another one on Wednesday with Robert Charbonneau.
Yes.
Wednesday this
week? Great. So this is.
I'm only going to call him Robert Charbonneau because I have to say his first and last name. I love the way Robert Charbonneau sounds.
Absolutely.
Don't you, Braden? I'm going to say Robert Charbonneau.
If you guys are available, definitely join us that Wednesday because we're going to talk about the topic of poetry. Is there the death of poetry and is poetry dead? That's the topic. He started this. And now I want to capitalize on it, so I'm happy that he actually decided to let's do more of this topic because this is a topic that definitely needs to be talked about. So I'm excited for that.
Yeah.
So, any final thoughts before we get out?
Yeah, and if anybody just joining us now, sorry, we gotta go and get our buddy Braden to bed because his son, who's 6 years old, is gonna get him up really early tomorrow. But if you want to do an open mic, we will be doing it again next week on Friday at the 10 o'clock to 11 or whatever hour spot. So if you didn't get on this week, send us DM pieces for next week, or don't be a coward and get on this mic. Yeah. Right, Andy?
So thank you guys. Thank you everybody. Braden, thank you so much for doing us.
Braden, thank you so much, and we'll get a part 2.
Have a good night.
All right. Well, have a great night, everybody. Thank you all for joining us. I'm the one who actually has to turn the car off. So I call this the car, by the way, everybody.